The young master was practicing shooting for the first time, but accidentally injured the young duke. Yet, even though he had already offered a solemn apology, the young duke had no intention of blaming him. Even so, he was still scolded by the nobles. Still very young, he was slapped to the ground by his mother, all because he had unintentionally stepped into the noble's circle and threatened his older brother Jilin's position. No matter how he tried to explain, he could not obtain his mother's forgiveness. It turned out that the meaning of his existence was to become a copy of his older brother. 8 years earlier, on a stormy night, a carriage suddenly drove into the slums. A beautiful noblewoman stepped down from the carriage. She was ⑨-②, the Marchioness of the Bell family. She raised her hand, signaling the man to lead the way. I went to a lot of trouble to find her, but what do you want with that child? No sooner had he spoken than a gleaming sword was pressed against his throat. If you want to live, then lead the way obediently. The man was so frightened he did not even dare breathe loudly, and could only walk honestly in front. Before long, they reached their destination. She is right there. They saw a little girl kneeling on the ground, playing with mud. With just one glance, that beautiful golden hair was enough to make her certain that this was exactly the person she had been looking for. The man cautiously hinted about his reward. A money pouch was thrown directly in front of him. It was a huge sum of money, more than he had ever seen in his life. What happened today must remain secret. Naturally, I wish you a pleasant time. ⑨-② instructed her subordinate to make sure the man kept his mouth shut. As you command. The beautiful ⑨-②, living in that den of vice, was a dazzling gem born from the mud. ⑨-② slowly walked up to ⑨-②. Why are you not going inside in such heavy rain? ⑨-② slowly raised her head. Mother is working.
Who are you?
Hearing the word working, the corner of ⑨-②'s mouth twitched slightly. Your name is ⑨-②, right? You know me? Of course. Once, there was a very beautiful woman who, dragging along her heavily pregnant body, hid herself in the notorious slum known as the Ruber district. That woman had no one to rely on and could only beg along the streets and wander from place to place. She even slept beside vagrants, living in daily fear, as if she were hiding from someone. Until one day, that woman gave birth to a child on the street. That child seemed completely out of place in the foul-smelling Ruber district. That little angel had a pair of emerald-like eyes. After the season of abundance passed, it was followed by a bitter winter, and the child fell ill from the severe cold. The woman did not have a single coin, and to save her child, she could only offer herself to the village doctor. Today, 12 years later, ⑨-② had finally found this place. I came here specially because I heard your mother is very seriously ill. ⑨-② anxiously grabbed the woman's skirt and pressed for an answer. Is my mother very seriously ill? What should I do? Mother. She turned around, about to go find her mother, when suddenly a hand reached out from behind and knocked her unconscious on the spot. A guard steadily caught the collapsing girl, a 12-year-old child, and yet she weighs so little. ⑨-②'s gaze instantly turned cold. She did not want to cause a disturbance, so she arranged for people to deal with the aftermath. Then what about this child's mother? Hearing that, the woman immediately flared up. In such a broken-down slum, is it not common for fires to break out? The guard immediately felt a chill run down his spine. Just kidding. I merely hope that she will not come through safely. Let us go. That is enough. And just like that, young ⑨-② was forced to leave her mother. The slum girl ⑨-② was brought into the Marquis's residence. Half asleep and half awake, she only felt softness and fragrance all around her. Half asleep and half awake, she only felt softness and fragrance all around her. Could this be heaven? A single call of child jolted her awake from her dream. What happened?
When she turned her head, she saw a pretty older sister looking at her with a face full of kinta.
Are you alright? Everything before her felt unfamiliar. Unlike the crude slums, this place was spacious and bright, exuding splendor and luxury everywhere. Excuse me, is this heaven? Betty was amused by her innocent words. You must be hungry. Eat something first. Here, it is a little hot, eat slowly. Looking at the plentiful food before her, ⑨-②'s stomach growled loudly with hunger. That instantly made her think of her mother. A very beautiful auntie said her mother was sick. Why are you not eating? Are you not hungry? Auntie, what place is this? Where is my mother? Where is the beautiful auntie I saw earlier? Betty comforted her. Once you finish your porridge and take a bath, she will come see you. A bath?
Why?
⑨-② had not noticed at all how dirty she looked. Betty stammered, unable to say a complete sentence for a long while. Just then, a burst of hurried footsteps suddenly came from outside the door. The room door was violently pushed open from outside with a loud bang. Betty, did I not tell you to inform me immediately once ⑨-② woke up? ⑨-② stared blankly at the boy before her. He was like an angel.
Hello, ⑨-②.
I am Jilin Bell. ⑨-②, you are 12 years old, right? ⑨-② timidly nodded. I am 15. 3 years older than you. So, I am the older brother, right? Looking at the enthusiastic boy before her, ⑨-② instead curled herself into a small ball. Please send me back to my mother. I did not even say a single word to her before I came, and she must be very worried. So ⑨-② was missing her mother. Betty, whereas Kalia's mother. Kalia also looked tearfully toward Betty, while Betty's face was full of embarrassment. Madam will tell you. Madam only instructed me to take care of the young lady's meals and bath. I almost forgot I need to take a bath. She lowered her head and looked at her dirty self, forming a stark contrast with her shining older brother. Kalia's face turned red all at once. May I take a bath? Of course. We will go right now. First the bath, then the meal. But I do not know how to bathe. Do not worry, I will help you. Betty excitedly pulled Kalia along, about to take her to bathe. But just then, a violent coughing fit suddenly came from behind them. That sound came from Jilin. Betty immediately dropped Kalia and hurried toward the young master. Jilin coughed more and more violently, vomiting mouthful after mouthful of blood. Kalia was so frightened that she clutched the corner of her clothes tightly. Betty's cries quickly drew a large number of servants. Quick, report to Lord Angle. Towels. Bring towels quickly. Before being taken away, Jilin gave Kalia a deep look. It was as if he were telling her not to be afraid. Before long, Jilin was carried away by the servants. Looking at Betty's anxious figure, Kalia slowly spoke. Will that older brother die? Hearing those words, Betty's whole body shook. When she turned around, she found Kalia clutching her skirt tightly and sobbing softly, clearly truly frightened. Betty comforted her softly. No, he will not really. Let us go take a bath first. If we wait any longer, it will be too late for bed. Okay, Auntie. Kalia tightly held Betty's large hand, as if only by doing so could she gain a little strength. That splash of crimson scattered across the bedsheets was especially glaring. Older brother, he will be alright, right? Having just personally seen that angel-like older brother coughing up blood in great mouthfuls, Kalia, who had not yet recovered from her fear, was taken to the Marchioness's room. Faced with the scrutinizing gaze of the beautiful auntie, Kalia appeared especially cautious. She respectfully saluted and greeted Madam. Now that you are clean, you look much more pleasing to the eye. She sincerely thanked Madam for giving her such delicious food. But the person she most wanted to see right now was still her own mother. Kalia was completely enveloped by the cold aura emanating from Madam. Sensing Kalia's fear, ①-② smiled and extended a hand toward her, signaling her to come over. Although she was very afraid, for the sake of seeing her mother, she still forced herself to walk over. Kalia, I am sorry. You can no longer see your mother again. Hearing this, Kalia's pupils suddenly contracted. Your mother committed a grave crime. She stole something extremely precious. For a moment, Kalia could not believe her ears at all. How could that be? Thinking that she would never see her mother again, Kalia fell completely into despair, and her eyes instantly filled with tears. Your mother stole something very precious to me, but now it can no longer be recovered. So, she ought to be punished, do you not agree? Looking at the increasingly crazed Madam before her, Kalia gathered her courage and grabbed her skirt. I will help you find it back. Maybe you only misplaced it. As she said this, tears as large as beans kept falling non-stop. My mother is not a thief. As those words fell, ①-② finally stopped hesitating. Maid, Betty, bring it here. An exquisite gift box appeared before Kalia, and inside it lay a sharp pair of scissors. Watching Madam pick up the scissors, Kalia's eyes widened suddenly. What Madam said next completely rewrote her life. Kalyan Bell, from now on, as long as you live as Kalyan Bell, both your mother and you will remain safe and sound. I guarantee it. But I am Kalia. No, from today onward, you are Kalyan Bell. Short hair suits you very well too, Kalyan. And just like that, before Kalia's shocked eyes, all of her beautiful golden hair was cut off. Unable to accept all of this at once, Kalia curled herself into a tiny ball, sobbing weakly. Soft-hearted Betty comforted her gently. Kalia's mother has not been punished. She is only receiving treatment, and Madam is not a bad person either. So, as long as you obediently listen, you'll be able to save Laura. Hearing the name Laura, Kalia suddenly opened her eyes. You know my mother? Betty smiled as she replied. Of course. And this is also your father's home. This was the first time she had ever heard the word father from someone else. Following Betty's gaze, she saw a huge portrait hanging prominently on the wall. Looking at that man, whose hair color and eye color were the same as hers, she suddenly remembered what her mother had once said. Your father also has beautiful light golden hair and handsome eyes like emeralds. Kalia and her father looked exactly alike. Mother, what exactly is going on? So it turned out that Kalia's appearance was only meant to make her Jilin substitute. The two of them really did look very alike. Kalia, who should have been living in the slums, at this moment appeared in the Marquis's residence as a boy. So it turned out that she was the Bell family's illegitimate daughter, only because her half-brother from the same father was gravely ill, and no one knew on which day he might suddenly die. And the enormous Bell family could not be left without an heir. Before her brother made a full recovery, she had to live as Kalyan Bell. Only in this way could she see her mother again. So that was why, if the family had no heir, it would be looked down upon by the other nobles. And precisely because of this, Kalia, though a girl, was raised as a boy. Even if something really happened to Jilin, the Bell family would still have someone to inherit it. After all, she is the Marquis's child. The two of them really do look alike, but ①-② is perhaps a bit too beautiful. The moment she saw her father's portrait last night, she had already guessed it. Perhaps what mother stole had never been an object at all. Everything here was far too complicated. She was not sure that as long as she obediently listened, Madame would really send her back to her mother. Flowers were blooming here, and the decorations were magnificent. Everything was beyond comparison with Ruber. A sudden gunshot startled her. What happened? She looked in the direction the sound had come from and saw that not far away, a boy slowly lowered the gun in his hand. Clearly, he was very satisfied with his performance just now. After noticing that gaze, the boy suddenly turned his head. Such a handsome older brother, such a beautiful younger brother, and just like that, their gazes met in midair. At that moment, ①-② appeared from who knew where.
①-②
respectfully saluted her older brother, but what greeted her was a big hug. You finally came out of your room. You have no idea how worried I was. ①-② was hugged so tightly by him that she could barely breathe. Only then did ①-② release her and warmly introduce his younger brother to Claude. Upon hearing the words younger brother, ①-② suddenly pushed him away. Claude, at some point, had already walked up in front of them, very alike. ①-② froze for a moment, and when she looked up, she met Claude's eyes. He carefully sized up the boy before him. Then he let out a faint scoff and turned to leave. What does that mean? The boy raised the gun again. Then he pointed to his ears, signaling her to cover them. But ①-② did not react at all. With no other choice, Claude had to tell her to cover her ears. Although she did not know why, ①-② obediently did as she was told. Only then did the boy reveal a satisfied smile. Remembering the huge gunshot from just now, she fearfully covered her ears tightly. Load, aim, fire. His entire series of actions flowed as smoothly as water. Bang, bang, bang. The birds in the woods instantly scattered into flight. A faint lavender fragrance and the intense smell of gunpowder that shook the soul. That was her first impression of Claude. Now that there is suddenly an extra younger brother, do you not find him an eyesore? Why would I find him an eyesore? Because that is proof that deception once existed. ①-② placed the gun on the table and said calmly, all deception comes at a price. My younger brother ①-② has already paid a great deal for that deception. Neither of the two, locked in confrontation, had any intention of backing down. Anyway, I am very happy to have an extra younger brother, Claude, so you do not need to worry. Although they looked very similar on the outside, in other aspects, he was nothing like ①-② at all. Watching ①-② seriously practice pronunciation, Claude lightly curled his lips. This child is rather interesting. The slum girl ①-② was forcibly taken away by the Marchioness without any preparation. In the blink of an eye, she became the Bell family's young master. In order to properly serve as her brother ①-②'s substitute, he desperately learned to read and studied arithmetic. But in the end, this place did not have her mother. So every day, food lost its taste, and every night, sleep would not come. ①-② also noticed that ①-② had grown much thinner lately. He had heard that ①-② was performing very well in class. It would have been one thing if Lady Bell did not praise him, but she even spoke sarcastically, saying he was inferior to her son ①-②. But ①-② did not think so. ①-② had only been attending lessons for a week, and being able to perform like this was already very good. He felt that his mother should not put so much pressure on his younger brother, watching her own son constantly favor an outsider. Anata immediately became furious. It seemed she could only wait until ①-② was absent to talk to him again. ①-② kept his head lowered the whole time, not daring to say a single word. Only after the lady left did he slowly raise his head. Looking at his angel-like older brother, he finally smiled again. ①-② also told him about how he had met Claude. It turned out that Claude was the Lord of the North, the young master of Duca Hall's family, and the two were the same age. ①-② only felt that the man was especially handsome and especially frightening. ①-② warmly invited him to go hunting together next time, but ①-② refused at once because he had never touched a gun before. It's okay. Everyone has a first time. Just then, a sudden commotion came from outside the door. Young master, the Marquis has returned. Hearing that his father had come back, ①-② sprang up from his chair at once. Father is back. By the time they hurried outside, the servants had already lined up neatly to welcome the master of the castle. ①-② had always been the apple of the Marquis's eye, and he adored this son dearly. ①-②, however, stood far away. Faced with the father before him, he felt only unfamiliarity in his heart. The Marquis also noticed ①-②, and he lowered his head in fright at once. As he felt his father getting closer and closer, his heart was instantly engulfed by unease. His father crouched down in front of him and softly called his name. ①-② timidly raised his eyes. What entered his sight was his father opening his arms and calling him over. He froze for a moment at first, then took nervous steps and slowly walked toward his father. The next second, he fell into a warm embrace. His father gently rubbed his little head, and a strange emotion instantly surged into his heart. Tears began to well up in his eyes. Welcome back, ①-②. What he did not know was that ①-② was already crying uncontrollably at this moment. He had clearly heard that it was a girl, but the ①-② he saw was dressed as a boy. How could Madame let a girl pretend to be a boy? We don't need a daughter. He only needed to hold on until ①-② recovered his health. For the sake of the family, I only hope he can temporarily serve as a substitute. For the family's interests, you really are cruel. The truly cruel one is the Marquis. To think he actually developed real feelings for a maid. Originally, she had thought the Marquis was merely fooling around. She had also believed he would soon come to his senses. But just when Jilin had only just learned to run around, that woman's belly actually began to swell. Because she might be carrying a son, even the servants began to act according to her mood. And on the day Jilin had his accident, she only felt as though the sky were collapsing. She was convinced that the culprit was that woman. Because the woman was pregnant, she could only drive her out. She would never forgive the woman who had done something so excessive to her. And it was from that day on that Jilin began walking step by step toward death. What the Marquis wanted to know now was how Kalian's mother was doing these days. But how could ⑨-ŋa possibly tell him? She wished that woman would die as soon as possible. Seeing this, the man bent down and soothed his wife's emotions. He swore on the family's honor that he would never forgive that woman until death. Kalia, who should have been attending tea parties in a pretty little dress, was at this moment standing alone in the snow as the young master of the Marquis' family, tasting snow. So, in order to become a qualified substitute, he had to live on as a boy. Snowflakes suddenly began to drift down from the sky. Compared with the children's excitement, the adults' expressions were utterly cold. Marilyn, let's go out. Marilyn quickly refused the princess's invitation on the grounds that it was too cold outside. In reality, she was simply afraid that staying with the princess would make her look childish. She was afraid her childish side would be seen by the young duke she admired. That little thought of hers was exposed by the princess in a single remark. Marilyn instantly became embarrassed and angry. The noisy sounds outside drew the princess's attention. As if an idle boy group had made a dazzling entrance, the princess excitedly threw herself toward the glass window. Even Marilyn, who had been acting tough, could not help but move closer as well. Her gaze quickly locked onto Claude, but that person was looking in another direction instead. Following his line of sight, a thinly dressed little boy was looking up at the sky. Everyone was curious about what exactly he was doing. It seemed like he was tasting the flavor of snow. The noble women immediately began discussing it all at once. ⑨-ŋa felt that he had disgraced the Marquis' family and immediately ordered the maid to take Kalian back to his room. But the princess became interested in the little boy.
How old is he?
Faced with the princess's question, ⑨-ŋa immediately greeted her with a smile. 12 years old, Your Highness, 3 years younger than Jilin. At this moment, Marilyn regretted more than anything that she had not agreed to go out with the princess earlier. They clearly looked very alike, but the sharp-eyed princess still became suspicious. Is that child really a boy? Hearing this, ⑨-ŋa's heart tightened. She was far too beautiful. No one would doubt it even if she were said to be a girl. After living so many years, ⑨-ŋa had seen every kind of scene. She still said with a smile, "A lot of people say that, Your Highness." Not hearing the answer she wanted, the princess gave a cold snort and turned away, no longer looking at her. It didn't matter anyway, because in her eyes there was only brother Jilin. He really was very gentle. Seeing that the young duke had also taken Kalian's hand, jealousy instantly surged in Marilyn's heart. Why was he clearly a boy, yet happened to be so beautiful? Claude came alone to the shooting range. He had come to keep an appointment. From far away, he could already hear the noisy bickering of the Bell brothers. The moment Kalian saw Claude, his heart suddenly tightened. Before that, he had no idea that today's teacher would actually be the young duke. At this moment, he only felt like he was about to cry. But Claude did not care at all. He simply raised the gun and gestured with it on his own. "May I ask you a question? Why did you go taste the snow?" Perhaps he had not expected his actions to be noticed. Kalian's little face instantly flushed red. He was just curious. Curious about what? The taste of snow? Thinking of this, Claude could not hold back and actually let out a soft laugh. Wasn't that something only street children would do? As he spoke, he handed the gun to him. While Kalian was still hesitating, Claude had already walked behind him. "Answer me, Kalian. Hurry up, the two of them are a little too close right now." Kalian felt as if his heart were about to leap into his throat. At this moment, he was both nervous and frightened. His hands also began trembling uncontrollably. In his panic, the gun accidentally went off. Kalian's pupils instantly constricted, looking at the flock of birds startled into flight in the distance, and at the young duke's hand that had not been withdrawn in time and had been burned. His mind went blank in an instant. Seeing that Claude was injured, everyone cried out in horror, "Call the doctor." But Claude only said lightly, "No need." The attendants immediately went pale. It was only a slight burn. There was no need to make such a fuss. Just then, a faint sobbing sound came from behind, and when he turned around, Kalian was already crying his eyes out. He let out a light laugh. "I'm the one who got hurt, so why are you crying?" But Kalian did not answer. Instead, without saying a word, he knelt in the snow and hurriedly made a snowball. His little hands were frozen red, yet he seemed to feel nothing. Claude was full of confusion. The next second, Kalian pulled over his injured hand, and that snowball was pressed against the wound. Whether from the cold or from fear, Kalian was trembling all over. The moment he thought that he had hurt someone so noble and what kind of punishment he would face next. He was so frightened that he squeezed his eyes shut tightly, and only after a long while did he slowly speak. "Please forgive me.
It was all my fault."
At this time, Marilyn and the others also came over after hearing the commotion. She anxiously shoved Callian aside and took out the handkerchief she carried with her. She took hold of Claude's injured hand. "I have already ordered the servants to fetch a doctor." Unexpectedly, Princess Rosina had also rushed over. Jilin politely greeted her. Claude did not like Marilyn and immediately pulled his hand back. Marilyn turned around and glared angrily at the person who had caused it all. "Callian," she shouted loudly at the fool. "No matter how young you are, how could you be so careless with something as dangerous as a gun?" Callian was so frightened that he kept stepping back. Suddenly, a large hand landed on his shoulder. "Miss, are you yelling at my younger brother right now?" But he injured the young duke's hand. As she spoke, her body also began to tremble. Jilin's face darkened, and he said word by word, "So I'm asking you, are you yelling at my younger brother?" Marilyn was instantly frightened and hurriedly admitted that she had lost her composure, then apologized to Jilin. But Jilin pulled Callian into his arms in one motion. "The person you should apologize to is not me, but my younger brother." Then he switched to a gentle tone again. "Callian, apologized to His Grace the young duke." Callian nodded hard. Under Claude's gaze, he respectfully bowed to him. "I'm sorry, Your Grace." Callian's sincere appearance made Jilin feel extremely gratified, but Marilyn still could not let it go. Just then, a crisp burst of laughter suddenly rang out. The handkerchief in Marilyn's hand also fell to the ground. Feeling that the young duke was getting closer and closer to him, Callian suddenly raised his head. He saw Claude extend his injured hand before him once again. "Do it again." Callian did not understand at all what the person before him was saying. Like just now, "Do it again, Callian." That works much better than a handkerchief. He had actually injured the noble young duke by accident, even though he had already apologized with utmost sincerity. The young duke showed not the slightest intention of blaming him, and yet he was still insulted by the other nobles. But no matter how he tried to explain, he widened his round eyes, his face full of disbelief. He could not believe that his mother would say such vicious words. "You still have the nerve to cry? Unbelievable. Remember this. The only thing you need to do is stay alive. If you dare to steal Jilin's spotlight again, I will absolutely not let you off." Claude, standing outside the door, heard every single one of these words clearly. He only found it absurd. Even the victim had not pursued the matter. So, what exactly was this so-called mother getting so worked up about? Heavy snow was falling outside. Faintly, one could still hear a child's suppressed sobs. It was Callian. He had been punished by the lady and forbidden from entering the house. At this moment, he really missed his mother. Suddenly, a dark shadow fell over him. Someone was walking over. He abruptly raised his head. It turned out to be the injured young duke. Claude crouched down in front of Callian. Imitating what Callian had done that afternoon, he made a snowball. He gently pressed it against Callian's swollen cheek, and the young duke's sudden action left him overwhelmed with surprise and gratitude. At that moment, both of their heartbeats quietly quickened. "So, this is what it feels like." The trial experience ended. Claude stood up and brushed the snow from his hands. Then he turned and left on his own. In the vast back garden, in the blink of an eye, only Callian was left again, as if that person had never come at all. After learning of this matter, the Marquis and his wife had a fierce argument. "Callian is our child too. Slapping a child in the face is simply going too far." But ①-② insisted that her punishment of Callian was all for the sake of the Bell family. As long as he stopped making mistakes, of course, she would not hit him again. Even if it had been Jilin who had disgraced the Bell family's honor today, she would have treated him the same. The family would decline because of one child's mistake? This was simply the most absurd joke the Marquis had ever heard. He truly did not know who exactly was disgracing the Bell family. After throwing down those words, he slammed the door and left. It turned out that a diamond mine had been discovered in the northern neutral region. If the emperor had not rashly intervened, that mine should have belonged entirely to Duke Hall, and the kingdom of Gear had already begun to take action. Even if only to stop their plot, the Bell family had to support the duke in strengthening his power. A retainer suddenly came to report, "My lord Marquis, young Master Jilin is having trouble breathing because Callian had accidentally injured the noble young duke. His mother punished him by making him kneel in the snow." And just at this moment, news came that his older brother was in critical condition. By the time the Marquis arrived, Jilin had already lost consciousness. Even using the best medicine in the empire, it still had no effect at all. This was almost equivalent to directly sentencing Jilin to death. Just when everyone was at a complete loss, Claude appeared and proposed passing through the neutral territory to go to Gear. It turned out that the greatest holy physician, ①-②, was there. But as far as the Marquis knew, ①-② was the attending physician of the Shoujo royal family. What he did not know was that the doctor had once received Duke Hall's favor. Moreover, Claude was unwilling to lose his close friend just like this. Hearing this glimmer of hope, ①-② seemed to grasp the last life-saving straw. As long as the child can be saved, I am willing to do anything. Please consider it carefully, both of you. After stepping outside, I saw Kalyan standing alone in the corner. It turned out that he was not even allowed to offer his greetings.
How old are you?
10,
12.
Have you gone to the academy yet? I study with teacher Tater. All right, then we'll have to wait until you reach the upper grades before we meet again. And just like that, for years passed. On a bright, sunny morning, Kalyan's hair had grown long again. His greatest pleasure was playing freely in the water. This made Betty terribly anxious. Please come out quickly, young master. The sun is so nice. How could one not go swimming? It turned out that Madam was about to return, and she absolutely must not see Kalyan with long hair. At times like this, he was always especially troubled. Because he was too good looking, the maids always fawned over him, yet he only wanted to quietly be a handsome man. Even such a small request could not be satisfied. At this moment, he thought of his brother again. After going to Gear to study, he had become a hostage, but for the sake of treatment, there had been no choice. During these 4 years, he had never received any news at all about Jilin and the young duke, but only if Jilin returned safe and healthy could he go back to the home that truly belonged to him. At this moment, a retainer came to report, "Young master, people from the academy have arrived," simply because he was too beautiful and yet happened to be a boy. He had already become widely famous at a very young age. Even the teachers at the academy praised him greatly. Because of the matter of dressing as a boy while being a girl, the family repeatedly postponed Kalyan's enrollment. But after learning that he was going to the capital to study, he could no longer sit still. "Father, I want to enroll." Under the banner of thinking for the family's honor, he smoothly obtained his father's approval. "Then I will arrange a residence for you near the academy." Kalyan's eyes instantly lit up. Since the matter had already been settled, the group of teachers prepared to leave. But the inconspicuous man, with a small mustache in the crowd, quietly repeated Kalyan's name over and over. In fact, the reason he insisted on going to the capital was also very simple. Ruber was in the capital, and his mother was in Ruber. This was his last chance to reclaim Kalia's life. Just as he was imagining the future, a dark shadow behind him enveloped him completely. He had just seen this man. He was the dorm supervisor who would oversee him in the future. The man's name was Eddie. At this moment, he was sizing him up with a meaningful look on his face. Kalyan felt uncomfortable under his gaze. An appearance that was too beautiful always easily invited trouble. And not only among humans, but among all living beings. As he spoke, that large hand heavily rubbed Kalyan's shoulder a few more times. No matter where you go, there will inevitably be people who dislike you. A pampered young nobleman like you needs to be even more careful because she was a girl. The Marquis would not agree to let him go to the capital alone. So, he arranged for the maid Peppa to accompany him. "You wanted me to wear a dress a long time ago, didn't you? When we get to the capital, let's try it." For no other reason than that he was afraid his mother would not recognize him as a boy. The capital was both prosperous and lively. It was completely different from how he remembered it. It turned out that he had never left the Ruber region before, only because his mother had once said that the outside world was very dangerous. Before enrolling, he first had to have a school uniform made. "Wait, let me guide Kalyan there. It's His Imperial Highness, the Crown Prince. Long time no see, Lord Marquis." And Kalyan Bell. He invoked his father the Emperor to send the Marquis away, then personally took Kalyan to have his measurements taken for clothes. The Crown Prince's act of coming in directly, without even knocking, also drew the shop owner's dissatisfaction. After all, there were other customers in the shop right now, but he said that he was only helping a lost customer find the way. "Look who's here, Claude. You haven't changed at all. Hello, Kalyan." So the customer just now was the young duke. It was Kalyan's turn to be measured. Claude also showed no intention of leaving at all. At this moment, however, the shop owner asked him to take off his shirt. It turned out that the shirt Kalyan was wearing was too big, dignified and elegant. That was the soul of the academy uniform. Such loose clothing was obviously not suitable for him. If they kept measuring like this, he would be found out sooner or later. "Could you help block for me?" Because this was the shop his father had recommended. Kalyan naturally felt very at ease, but Claude was full of confusion about this act of drawing the curtain. Although it was very embarrassing, Kalyan still took off his shirt, revealing his snow-white skin. The old shop owner was shocked on the spot. This was clearly a little girl. Fortunately, the shop owner Frank was experienced and knowledgeable. He did not expose him on the spot. He even made him a suitable shirt, compared with the suspicious attempt at concealment brought by a loose shirt. A well-fitted shirt was instead more natural and less likely to arouse suspicion. It was also the Crown Prince's first time seeing Frank care so much about a customer. He could not help teasing him a little. He also invited Kalyan to visit his palace. And so, that led to the current scene. Because he could not ride a horse, he was forced to share one with Claude. Such close contact made his little face flush red with embarrassment. Seeing this, the young duke bent slightly forward. "You should smile, Kalyan. Don't make it look like I've kidnapped you." Kalyan's face turned even redder. Why was the road to the Imperial Palace so far? It was his first time at the Imperial Palace, and he was both uneasy and nervous. The Imperial Palace really was magnificent, and those two were also his brother's friends. But Claude spoke with sarcasm, saying that he was very good at flattering others. This immediately made Kalyan unhappy. Seeing this, the Crown Prince immediately ran over to smooth things over, but Claude stepped in front of him with a quick movement. "So last time, The crown prince had also toyed with others like this. He liked all beautiful things, including men, and had even suffered great humiliation because of it. So there was no need to let others seize on that as leverage again. And besides, Kalyan was far too beautiful. He would definitely become entangled in all kinds of scandals. Yet the crown prince looked completely unconcerned. Looking at the two of them, Kalyan felt speechless. He turned around and quickly walked away. I am not flattering others. I am being considerate of other people's feelings. Your Grace, young Duke. I never thought of gaining benefits by flattering anyone. After saying that, he walked around Claude and ran off with quick steps. This chain of reactions made Claude laugh out loud directly. How interesting. Kalyan and the others arrived at the crown prince's palace. Looking at those exquisitely delicate little desserts, her stomach growled with hunger. Claude finally could not stand it anymore. Don't just look. Eat. Kalyan looked proud and stubborn. I was only staring because they looked pretty, but the crown prince exposed him with a single sentence. You came by carriage from Kosovo, so you probably haven't eaten yet, have you? Were these two devils? Did Kalyan not need to save face? Then I'll reluctantly eat one. The crown prince picked one up and placed it on his plate. After hesitating for quite a while, he finally took a light bite and chewed slowly. The next second, his eyes instantly lit up. How could there be something this delicious? Princess Rosina was finally getting engaged, and the person was Kalyan's older brother, Jilin. Clearly, he knew nothing about it. Perhaps it was normal not to tell him anything, because an occasion like that would never invite him in the first place. Seeing Kalyan's embarrassment, Claude gave a light cough. The Marchioness had always stayed in the north, so it was normal that Kalyan had not received the news, simply because he was not good at riding horses. The young master was forced to share a horse with the young duke. In an instant, his little face flushed red with embarrassment. Just now, from the crown prince's mouth, he had unexpectedly learned that his own brother was about to get engaged. Only then did he suddenly understand. So in this family, he had always been an outsider. Claude, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly spoke, just as he was touched that the young duke was being considerate of him. Looking at you makes me feel hungry too, so hurry up and eat. Those words sent a chill down his back. What strange things exactly were going on in this person's head? I understand. In order not to let the young duke go hungry, I will sacrifice myself a little. After saying that, he stuffed it into his mouth and started devouring it fiercely. Only then did Claude reveal a satisfied smile. Seeing Kalyan eat like a little kitten, Claude's hand, which had reached out wanting to wipe him clean, changed direction halfway and steadily pinched his chin. I am looking forward to it. Kalyan Bell's fidelity will surely exceed imagination. The sky gradually darkened. Kalyan left first. The noble posture he had deliberately put on earlier, and his flustered reaction when being teased. In Claude's eyes, all of it actually seemed especially cute. Wait, I actually think a man is cute? I must be crazy. This face-changing speed could be called master level. It left the crown prince full of confusion. It seems the young duke likes Kalyan very much. The crown prince said bluntly that he liked all beautiful things, just as he would like Claude and Jilin. It was the same principle. Don't make things too hard for him either. Maybe just as you said, Kalyan is only an imitation of Jilin, but sooner or later, he will become mine. Seeing that Claude had not spoken for a long time, the crown prince stood up, preparing to leave. It turned out the banquet was about to begin. This banquet was mainly for selecting a crown princess for the crown prince, and Claude recommended the daughter of Marquis Selby. The crown prince froze on the spot. Marilyn, isn't she your fiancé? Who doesn't know that you are going to get engaged to Miss Selby? At the mention of this, Claude got a headache because he did not like Marilyn at all. After Kalyan returned from the imperial palace, he had been feeling a little unwell. It turned out that he had eaten too much earlier and had indigestion. Since that was the case, his father did not force him to attend the banquet either. Hearing this, Kalyan immediately let out a sigh of relief. He truly did not like that kind of occasion very much. After his father left, he could finally rest properly. He took off that troublesome chest binder and instantly felt as if he had come back to life. At this moment, he only wanted to get some fresh air, so he opened the window. Feeling the evening breeze and eating sweet candy, nothing could be more pleasant. His mother was somewhere on the other side of the city wall. Just as he was worrying whether his mother would still recognize him, a woman's voice suddenly came from downstairs. Looking in the direction of the sound, it was Claude and a beautiful woman. He had seen this person when he was little. She was Marilyn, the daughter of the Selby family. Shouldn't we get engaged too? Claude's face was full of reluctance. There are many outstanding men in the Empire, and there are also many men who admire you, my lady, but not a single one of them can compare to young Duke Hall. After saying that, she turned around and ran away. At this moment, Kalyan only wanted to immediately find a crack in the ground to crawl into, because it seemed that he had seen something he should not have seen. Just as he was tiptoeing and preparing to close the window and leave, the candy in his arms suddenly spilled down, and Kalyan's eyes widened in fright. The words "be careful" had just reached Claude's ears when he saw a rain of candy falling from the sky, and that familiar figure not far away. The next second, he had intimate contact with the candy filling the sky. Looking at Kalyan, the culprit who started it all, his face darkened with black lines. So you were there. But the only thing that greeted him was the bang of the window being shut. The sky instantly fell into dead silence again. Humph, this brat. In his panic, Kalyan hid back in the room, just as he was worrying whether Claude would come looking for him because of this. He saw the underwear on the floor, and his whole body froze. Claude absolutely must not discover it. At that moment, a burst of urgent knocking suddenly rang out. Turning around, he saw that Claude had already barged in. "You threw sugar all over my face, and yet you're the one hiding in your room?" At this moment, Kalyan could no longer care about anything else because that undergarment was being clutched tightly in his hand. What mattered most now was how to get rid of this undergarment. He casually came up with an excuse and threw it away with a raised hand. "Your stomach feels bad, and you can still eat candy? The medicine was too bitter, so I ate a few pieces." Looking at the flustered Kalyan, Claude calmly patted the sofa. "Kalyan, come here." Hearing this, his body stiffened. Had he been exposed? At that thought, he couldn't help but swallow. "I need to confirm something, so come here." But Kalyan tightly covered his collar, showing no intention of going over at all. Seeing this, Claude's gaze suddenly darkened. "You really do take me for a bad person." Actually, Kalyan simply felt insecure because he wasn't wearing any undergarment. You need to be careful of Prince Waden. He likes beautiful and dazzling things, regardless of gender or status. Don't smile casually in front of him. Keep an appropriate distance from him. Also, your voice is very pleasant. The sudden praise made his little face flush red with embarrassment. He gave a few light coughs, wanting to ease the awkwardness before him. Suddenly, it was as if he had thought of something. Claude had a figure as upright and long-limbed as a model. His sharply sculpted brows and eyes, his long and thick eyelashes, and his high nose bridge, and those thin, tightly pressed lips. His whole person carried an innate air of nobility. If the crown prince likes beautiful things, then shouldn't you, young duke, be a little careful too? Claude gently raised his brows. "Because I think you are more beautiful than anyone else." As soon as the words fell, he turned his head and ran straight into the bathroom. Even he himself didn't know why he had said something so shameful. At this moment, he only felt that his heart was about to leap into his throat. The next second, a man's laughter came from outside. It was Claude. "You really are trying to toy with me in the palm of your hand." The only response he received was the loud sound of the door slamming shut. Looking at the shirt Kalyan had thrown on the floor, he actually bent down and picked it up as if under some strange spell. Compared to himself, this shirt was simply too small. The faint lavender fragrance, wafting from it, made the corners of Claude's lips curve into a beautiful arc. At this moment, the sound of rushing water came from the bathroom. This kid really has no sense of caution at all. By the time Kalyan came out after finishing his bath, the room had already become exceptionally bright. Just as he was feeling extremely puzzled, a rustling sound came from beside his ear. When he turned his head, he saw Claude and a group of maids. Not long after, Claude stood up, preparing to leave. Then he saw Kalyan also quickly chasing after him. His smile was bright, and he looked to be in a very good mood. "I wish you a pleasant night." This made Claude somewhat unhappy inside. Only when they were parting would he show him such a lovely smile every time. But when he thought of how Kalyan had looked just after finishing his bath, this night truly could be considered a pleasant one. The beautiful Kalya, who lived in a den of luxury, had soft, lustrous light blonde long hair and a pair of emerald-like eyes. And yet, she had no choice but to live for 4 years under the identity of the young son of the Marquis's household. As it turned out, her half-brother on her father's side was gravely ill. The family needed a replacement for Jilin, and she was that unlucky person. During the 4 years her brother was abroad, no matter how many letters she sent out, she did not receive a single reply. As it turned out, the Marchioness had been secretly intercepting everything. Jilin, who missed his younger sister beyond measure, had no choice but to find a reliable helper. That man was called Eye-丨, the third prince of the kingdom of Gear. Over the past 4 years, they had long since become friends who could talk about anything. Jilin placed the letter into his hands and asked him to help send it to his younger sister Kalya. He had long wanted to meet the angelic little sister whom his good friend praised to the skies. "All right, I'll help you deliver it to Kosovo. More accurately, I'll deliver it to your sister Kalya in person." Jilin was so shocked by the decision he made on his own that he froze on the spot. By the time he came back to his senses, there was already no sign of Ian left in the room. Under Jilin's stunned gaze, so shocked he could not speak, Ian flipped over the window and leapt down, then ran off into the distance with the letter in hand. At this moment, Anata's voice drifted over. Facing this mother, who had obstructed communication between the siblings, Jilin felt as though a fishbone were stuck in his throat. Toward this prince from an enemy nation, she was actually very grateful that he could be so close to her son. But because of political reasons, Anata did not wish for Jilin to become too close to him. Although on the surface, he always followed his mother's wishes. In Anata's eyes, this son of hers was growing farther and farther away from her. In order for mother to recognize her smoothly, Kalyan had to have a set of girls' formal clothes. But because there had recently been a string of public security incidents in the capital targeting noble women, although Kalyan looked like a boy, at first glance, he could still possibly be mistaken for a young lady. Betty was not at ease about the two of them going out, but this was no challenge at all for the exceptionally clever Kalyan. She casually made up an excuse and successfully persuaded Betty. All right, then I'll go prepare the carriage, but you absolutely must be careful. But the moment she looked up, master and servant were already nowhere to be seen. At this moment, they were leisurely making their way through the bustling streets. Meanwhile, outside the Selby Marquis household, soldiers stood on high alert. As it turned out, Marilyn had fallen victim to criminals last night and was now lying in bed, unconscious. His Highness will personally lead the Imperial Guard to capture the criminal. We will certainly punish them severely, so please do not worry. The one leading the troops this time was none other than the young Duke Claude. The criminal's identity had already been confirmed. He was a revolutionary dissatisfied with the class system. Saying that he still had matters to attend to, he left ahead of the others, leaving only the crown prince standing there alone in disarray. The crowd on the streets surged noisily. They happened to pass by a candy shop. Thinking of the way Kalyan had knocked over the candy last time, the corners of Claude's mouth lifted slightly. Isn't it just a little candy? Was that really worth making that kind of expression? But the young master who had been walking suddenly froze in place. It turned out that he seemed to have seen a familiar person. But this did not affect their enthusiasm for shopping. What Kalyan wanted to buy most, sure enough, was still clothes. Isn't our game in need of a dress? The young master stared absent-mindedly at the women's clothing in the display window. If I buy this for Betty, will she be happy? A noble young lady passing nearby drew his attention. Originally, he too should have been like them, wearing a beautiful dress, strolling the streets with 2 or 3 close girlfriends, and having afternoon tea. But all of this was probably impossible to realize in this lifetime. Just as he was feeling deeply dejected, a man's voice called out to him, and his pupils instantly shrank as he froze in place, because that person was clearly calling him Kalia. But aside from a few people close to him, no one knew his true identity. He had never met this strange man before. He stammered as he spoke. "You've mistaken me for someone else." But the man said with complete certainty, "Impossible. You must be Jilin's younger sister," simply because the siblings looked far too much alike. Only after quite a while did Kalyan remember to ask who the other party was. But that person kept deliberately keeping him in suspense. "I am the friend who came to eat fruit sherbet with you." So they went to a fruit drink shop. Compared with Kalyan's restraint, the man seemed extremely excited, but he was nearly dying from the heat and suggested sitting on the outdoor terrace, only to be decisively refused by Kalyan. It was only because his gorgeous foreign attire was simply too conspicuous. But in Ian's eyes, Kalia dressed as a man was even more conspicuous. Kalyan instantly became angry and stressed that he was a boy and that his brother was only joking with him. But to Ian, who knew the truth, this was not important at all. After calming down, Kalyan thought of his brother again. Was his health all right? Of course. Jilin has always been waiting for your news. He said that he had never received a single reply from you. Actually, he also knew that the letters had all been intercepted by the Marchioness. But Jilin missed his younger sister far too much. That was why he asked me to be this messenger. You need to hurry up and eat so that I can go back, Kalia. Kalyan was very dissatisfied that he kept calling him by his real name and raised his hand to push away what he was feeding him. But when Ian saw this, he only became even more energized, calling out Kalia again and again. He simply could not stop. Before long, Jilin will return to Kosovo, and when that time comes, you can reply to him in person. As he spoke, he placed the letter into Kalyan's hand. Looking at the letter before him, a faint unease arose in his heart. If his brother returned in good health, where should he go then? Could he really become Kalia again? Looking at the girl opposite him, whose thoughts were in turmoil, Ian still lifted the corners of his lips. What a lovely young lady. Kalia is Kalyan. All right then, Kalyan, I invite you to Gear. As soon as I get back, I'll send an invitation. You must come. I'm very much looking forward to seeing you in women's clothing. After saying that, he gently took Kalyan's hand and performed a standard hand kiss. Kalyan looked at the letter paper on the table and sank into thought. How exactly should he reply to the letter? Suddenly, a plate of exquisite pastries appeared before his eyes. It was Betty. She had come to deliver those 5 sets of formal clothes for the young master. She had also brought the one for Pepe. I heard that you even had ice cream with a foreigner with an unusual hair color. Without me accompanying you, you should be even more careful when going out alone. Don't you know what happened to Miss Marilyn? You will be living in the capital in the future. When that time comes, if I'm not by your side and you run into danger, what should be done? Seeing that Betty was truly worried, Kalyan softly comforted her. I gave Pepe clothes to thank her for accompanying me to the capital. Pepe must have had a hard time too. The one who always gave in first was Betty. She truly had no way to deal with her young master. At this moment, Kalyan suddenly grew very curious about how exactly the Marquis household had found him 4 years ago. How the Marquis household found him 4 years ago clearly made Betty's hand pause as she poured tea. Why would young master suddenly ask about this? Because a servant ran into Laura, and she has now already been married off by Madam. The disappointment on Kalyan's face was almost impossible to hide. Sometimes he also felt confused. Why did it have to be him, of all people? As it turned out, Jilin's life had been in danger at any moment back then. Anata's situation had also been very difficult. The people around them pointed fingers at the sick Jilin, and everyone was discussing the issue of the heir. The relatives all applied pressure, wanting Madame to adopt one of their sons. But once there was an adopted son, even if Jilin recovered his health, those covetous relatives would absolutely never let him go. So they found Kalia, simply because she could be discarded at any time. That was the truth. Jilin had already recovered and would be returning very soon. When that time came, he would be able to return to his original life. So he decided to tell Betty what he truly thought. He wanted to go find his mother. He wanted to reclaim the life that belonged to Kalia. He hurriedly ran out of the room, ignoring Betty's attempts to stop him. He took off his shoes and gently set them aside. Then he leapt forward and plunged into the water. This truth was simply too cruel for him. He did not want to think about it anymore. Only by soaking in the water could he obtain a moment of peace. Today, he was still just as beautiful. He really did want to escape from this place. But there was also one reason that made him unwilling to leave. What a pity. What a real pity. At this moment, a familiar male voice interrupted his thoughts. The instant he saw who had come, his pupils suddenly contracted. How could the young duke possibly be here? Claude looked at him with a half smile. You really are very interesting. Kallian, is swimming your hobby? As he spoke, he stood up and began taking off his clothes. What is going on, Betty? Betty shook her head repeatedly. She did not know either. It turned out that the young duke had come to visit Jilin, but had remembered the wrong day. And just at that moment, he happened to see Kallian swimming. It's been a long time since I last swam, so I'll swim for a while too. Kallian's face instantly turned pale. The undergarment in the water was faintly visible. What would happen if he discovered it? Claude was utterly confused by his reaction, and without caring whether Kallian agreed or not, he dove straight into the water. The splashing water struck Kallian's cheek. When he opened his eyes again, "This is my first time swimming with you, Kallian." Soaking in the water, the undergarment inside was faintly visible. Kallian raised his hands fearfully and held them in front of his chest. This series of actions successfully caught Claude's attention. With one swift leap, he plunged into the water. When he opened his eyes again, Claude had already arrived behind him. "This is my first time swimming with you." Kallian was instantly at a loss. With a splash, he dove headfirst into the water. He had to get away immediately, but the pursuing Claude grabbed his hand. He turned back in confusion. What came into view was a beautiful smile Claude cast toward him. His heart immediately began pounding wildly. He struggled with all his strength to break free from Claude's hold, and in his panic accidentally opened his mouth. The intense discomfort forced him back up to the surface. Seeing the young master coughing and choking nonstop, Betty looked full of worry. But Claude laughed at his poor diving skills, and Kallian was instantly filled with anger. "It was because you suddenly grabbed me. Then I'll give you another chance." Kallian was not falling for it. He turned around and walked away, leaving Claude alone in the water, stunned. Betty worriedly draped a shawl over him. When he turned back, he saw that Claude had also come ashore and calmly walked past him as if nothing had happened. After sitting down on the camping mat, he let out a deep sigh. "Come sit and rest for a while, at least." Kallian obediently did as he was told. "In weather like this today, you don't need to wrap yourself up so tightly. You probably won't catch a cold." Kallian pressed his lips together. "I'm afraid of the cold. This feels more comfortable." What a strange guy. After throwing out that remark, he went to sleep on his own. Seeing this, Kallian prepared to leave, but Claude stopped him. "How about I don't sleep and keep you company instead? Stop fooling around. I'm not a child. You are a child. You're only 16. I know that." Yes, he was already 16, and Jilin would be back very soon as well. At that moment, Claude suddenly asked Kallian about his future plans, because according to noble law, the second son cannot inherit any property. "If you wait until after graduating from the academy to look for work, it will be too late. I'll figure those things out myself. Come work as a butler for the Hall family. I can take you in." Kallian was full of question marks, so all along, he had thought the young duke disliked him, but he also had things he wanted to do himself. Although he had not decided yet, it definitely would not be to become a butler. "I'm not sure what you're up to, but you definitely won't be treated as well as the butler. How much money I make isn't important. What matters is being able to do what I truly want to do." When he said this, his gaze was astonishingly firm. For a moment, Claude did not know how to respond. At that moment, the surroundings were so quiet that only the rustling of leaves in the wind remained. "Kallian, stop talking. Wake me up in an hour, and you have to wake me up yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, he lay back down again. Claude really was strange. He had clearly asked him, yet refused to listen to him finish. "I rode here on horseback, so I'm a little tired and need some sleep. Otherwise, you can lie down too." The beautiful smile Claude gave him made Kallian's cheeks grow slightly warm. He bit his lip and said nothing. In any case, he would forget this place sooner or later. But here, one beautiful thing after another kept happening that made people unwilling to forget. Even while sleeping, he was frowning. I really don't know what he was thinking. Kallian's hand, resting over his chest, paused slightly. Then, he gently stroked Claude's head and saw the faint upward curve at the corner of the man's lips. He slowly withdrew his hand again. Kallian became faintly melancholic. The one who had suggested sleeping was clearly Claude, but Kallian himself also fell into a deep sleep. When she woke up again, she found herself already lying in bed. By then, it was already late. Peppa, what happened? Why am I here? It turned out she had fallen asleep outside, and Claude had carried her back. Her cheeks instantly flushed red, and her mind went blank. Fortunately, after bringing her back, Claude had gone to the capital. Otherwise, she truly would not have known how to face him. Soaking in the fragrant water, ①-Yen remained absent-minded the whole time, worrying about her weight. When Peppa said she was not heavy at all, but rather light as a feather, she still could not feel happy. The next time they met, Claude would surely ask why a man could be so light. Being overly sentimental was originally a common problem among adolescent girls. In fact, ①-Yen now looked more like a graceful young lady. Anyone with eyes could tell she was not a man. I heard that young Master ①-Yen has recovered his health. How much longer are you going to keep living like this? Peppa, that was far too presumptuous of you to say. Actually, Peppa was not wrong. Even if she wanted to hide it, she could not hide it forever. Prince Ian had once said that he looked forward to seeing her in women's clothing. Claude had also said that looking at her made him feel hungry. Even if it was for the sake of finding her mother and returning to an ordinary life, she could no longer keep entangling herself with those two men. Not long after, ①-Yen returned, and the moment they met, he lifted ①-Yen high into the air. Brother, you've changed so much I can hardly recognize you. You've grown up too, ①-Yen. It's really hard to believe that brother is actually this healthy now. But what ①-Yen said next made her freeze on the spot. ①-Yen, you really look like a graceful young lady now. The Marchioness also returned with him this time. She merely looked coldly at the brother and sister. ①-Yen stepped forward to greet her, but she turned and walked away. ①-Yen, I have something to say to you. Come inside with me first. She swallowed nervously, filled with fear and helplessness, while ①-Yen beside her remained silent. He only tightly held her hand. ①-Yen's eyes widened in shock. Let's go in. The afterglow of the setting sun made ①-Yen look especially tall. After being apart for so long, your relationship with ①-Yen is still this close. Have you been in contact privately? No, this is our first meeting in 4 years. So, you're going to the capital the day after tomorrow? Yes. Thanks to mother's care, I've already fallen behind in quite a few classes. Tata speaks very highly of you. You've done very well, ①-Yen. Now, you're also qualified to let ①-Yen call you his younger brother. ①-Yen bit her lip, wanting to speak but stopping herself. After you go to the capital, will you go look for your mother? Seeing that she did not speak, ①-Yen asked again. How was she supposed to answer? She had lived disguised as a man for 4 years, and had also been her brother's substitute for 4 years. But now, her brother had recovered and returned. She had also decided to return to an ordinary life, and to search for her biological mother. But this was not an easy thing. ①-Yen had carried the name ①-Yen, and had been active in noble society for a full 4 years. Many nobles knew her, and they all knew the name ①-Yen. Even Princess Rosina had specially sent a letter because of her concern. To become her original self again overnight and make ①-Yen completely disappear was obviously unrealistic. ①-Yen had warned her long ago to live quietly, like a shadow. But at this point, it was not completely without a solution. Soon, ①-Yen would be going to the capital to study. At that time, if she could pretend to be ill as much as possible, she could disappear from everyone's sight under the pretext of recuperation. After people gradually forgot her, they could hold ①-Yen's funeral, and she could become ①-Yen again. Holding a funeral for a living person was absurd enough to leave one speechless, and ①-Yen's emotions surged at that moment. But ①-Yen said with a smile that she merely wanted to keep the promise she had made when she first brought ①-Yen to the Marquis's residence. But ①-Yen's performance had far exceeded the madam's expectations, and because of that, her son ①-Yen had also recovered his health. So, I should completely return your freedom to you now, shouldn't I? But when she said this, there was a sinister smile on her lips. Seeing how hard ①-Yen had worked all this time, ①-Yen allowed her to attend her brother ①-Yen's engagement party. Because ①-Yen also hoped his sister could attend, and after completing the engagement ceremony, ①-Yen would return to Gyur. If that is the case, then I also have one request. Please forgive my mother. At that moment, ①-Yen had already chosen to yield, but ①-Yen had no intention of forgiving her mother. Don't you think this request is extremely rude? ①-Yen, you actually dare ask me to forgive her. But before she could finish speaking, ①-Yen interrupted her. If asking for forgiveness is rude, then what do the 4 years I spent living disguised as a man for my brother count as? Because he was worried about his sister facing their mother alone, ①-Yen had been silently standing guard outside the door the whole time. Naturally, every single word of this conversation fell into his ears. The reason I became ①-Yen in the first place was to beg forgiveness for my mother. At this point, she finally could not hold back her humiliated tears. So, please forgive her. But even though she was already crying, ①-Yen still had no intention of backing down, and only told her to get out. Just then, a pair of warm hands rested on her shoulders. Mother, enough. The one who came was her brother, ①-Yen. Strictly speaking, ①-Yen is also a member of the Bell family. Holding a funeral for a living person and treating family this way is simply too much. But ①-Yen had never regarded ①-Yen as family. He had only come to the Bell family in order to become ①-Yen's substitute. And now his task was complete. Something useless should be thrown away. Afterward, the two of them broke into a fierce argument, but Kalyan did not want her brother to be caught in the middle and troubled, so she silently turned and left. Jilin loudly called out Kalya. Her hand on the door paused slightly. "Brother, my name is Kalyan." After saying that, she left without looking back. At that moment, Kalyan felt wronged to the extreme. How could she even think of holding a funeral for a living person? These 4 years of living as Kalyan were not entirely fake. After going to the capital, she probably would never come back here again, but her heart still felt a trace of reluctance. At that moment, a figure appeared behind her. "Pepe, don't come over. I want to be alone for a while right now. Today you don't look like a woman either, huh?" That voice was obviously not the maid Pepe, but that strange man. Before she could react, the man had already walked to her side. "We meet again, Kalya. Why are you crying here?" Meanwhile, the Selby Marquis' residence was brightly lit. Today was the day of a banquet held to celebrate Marilyn's recovery. All the prestigious noble families had been invited. Even Princess Rosina had come by invitation. The venue was filled everywhere with congratulations on Marilyn's recovery. But Marilyn's gaze remained fixed on one person the whole time: young Duke Claude, the man she secretly loved and longed for day and night. There were even rumors that the two were about to be married. Marilyn stepped forward and naturally linked her arm with the man's, but Claude rejected her without mercy. "Since Miss is already well, then we will take our leave first." But the party had clearly not even officially begun yet. It turned out that his friend Jilin had returned, and they had already arranged to meet. But today was also the day of celebration for Marilyn's recovery. Unwilling to accept it, she wanted to keep Claude there, but the only response she got was the man's disgusted gaze. She did not want to make him angry. Helplessly, she could only admit that she had spoken out of turn. "Thank you for your understanding." So Claude left after saying goodbye to the princess. The crown prince had always been well informed. "I heard that young Marquis Jilin brought back a guest. It seems to be the 3rd son of King Luang Sijio. Rumor has it that he is a war maniac. We absolutely cannot underestimate the barbarity of the people of Gear. That prince is surely just like King Luang Sijio. If there is something he wants, he will obtain it at any cost." But it just so happened that such a foreign prince was praised to the skies by his friend Jilin. Just as the crown prince was handing Jilin a good person card, Claude, who had remained silent the whole time, suddenly spoke. He was the one who protected Jilin in Gear. The young duke's attitude shocked the crown prince so much his mouth could practically fit an egg. "How come even you are like this? This is practically sleeping with the enemy. Jilin is also a noble. He would not act based only on personal likes and dislikes. I hope you have not forgotten that you are nobles of the empire." But Ian was, after all, a prince of an enemy nation. That was an undeniable fact. And now, because of the mining rights to the diamond mines, conflict had already broken out in the neutral territory. If anything happened to Ian Sijio in the empire, war would be unavoidable. But the Ian they were talking about was currently trailing after Kalyan, like a little puppy. "I'm here as a guest, Kalya. Why do you keep avoiding me? It really hurts my feelings." "I'm not Kalya." Actually, just a moment ago, Kalyan had already brought Ian back to the main hall, which was where a guest should stay. But Ian shamelessly said that he had come to see Kalyan and did not want to tour the estate. What kind of image is it for a prince of a country to chase a girl around everywhere? But the next second, Ian suddenly leaned his face very close to Kalyan's.
"Ian, call me Ian."
As he said this, a beautiful curve lifted at the corner of his lips. Kalyan truly was not good at dealing with this kind of person, so she could only obediently comply and softly say the man's name. Ian instantly became as happy as a big dog. "But I still have many things to do. If you keep following me like this, it will really trouble me." Originally, she had wanted to use this excuse to shake Ian off, but unexpectedly, that person directly said he wanted to help her. There was simply no reasoning with this person at all. It would be better to go find brother. But because she stepped on some leaves, her whole body fell backward, and she was caught steadily by Prince Ian behind her. Even heaven seemed to be helping him.
"Kalya."
Still not having come back to her senses, she answered instinctively. Seeing the smile on the man's face, she finally realized she had said the wrong thing.
"See?
You really are Kalya." Kalyan stood up and pushed him away. "Honestly, you're completely hopeless."
Kalya."
Just then, a familiar male voice came from behind. When she turned around, she saw her brother staring at the two of them with a deeply displeased expression. "Ian, I clearly told you to wait for me at the guest house. This guy actually took advantage of my inattention to come flirt with my sister." Jilin stepped forward and pulled his sister behind him protectively. Kalyan also immediately put on an angry glare. The way the brother and sister presented a united front was practically identical. Seeing this, Ian quickly explained that he had just been a little bored, and it was because he had smelled a familiar fragrance that he happened to encounter Kalya. That pervert-like statement made Jilin shudder in disgust. "Are you some kind of beast? You're actually sniffing people out?" The man had even heard that this guy had secretly come to find his sister before, so he gently asked her whether he had harassed her. He was a prince of a nation after all. Did he not need any dignity, being accused to his face of harassing someone? But contrary to the expected answer, Kalyan not only did not say she had been harassed, she instead raised a brilliant smile. "He only ate ice cream with me." "Kalyan, are you an angel?" Ian's heart was practically melting from how adorable she was. Since his sister had said so, Jilin could not continue pressing the matter. Meanwhile, more distinguished guests arrived at the house. the Crown Prince and the young Duke. The Crown Prince had never thought very highly of the kingdom of ①-j-o. While you all go look for Prince Ian, I'll observe the stars together with lovely ①-Kalyan. The moment those words came out, Claude immediately refused. Your Highness must stay by my side. He was not at all comfortable letting the Crown Prince be alone with ①-Kalyan. Although ①-Kalyan was only Jilin's substitute, every time Claude saw her, he felt very happy and also found her very interesting. The Crown Prince's gossip-loving soul instantly ignited. A few days ago, Claude had suggested letting ①-Kalyan come to the ducal residence to work as a butler, only to be flatly rejected on the spot. But that had not made him give up. Instead, it made him want even more to recruit ①-Kalyan under his command. ①-Kalyan was a rare talent in noble circles, compared with those fools who only relied on the family head's power while making no effort themselves. The difference was like heaven and earth. So how could he possibly not be tempted? After the two princes exchanged simple greetings, Claude behind the Crown Prince caught Ian's attention. So, you are the future master of ①-Dekasa?
Not yet.
My father is still alive, but in the end, the one who'll sit in that position will still be you, right? The Crown Prince timely spoke up and stopped the childish clash between the two. But after Ian withdrew his gaze, his eyes fell on ①-Kalyan. Being dragged into this sort of situation made him feel uncomfortable all over. Only when he heard that they were going somewhere else to talk did he quietly let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Madam didn't discover this time, or there would have been another vicious beating. The two childish men each had their own thoughts, and neither was willing to leave first. Hey, you go first. I still have something to say to ①-Kalyan. The moment those words came out, ①-Kalyan instantly turned to stone. Jilin only felt one had become two. His Highness is waiting for you. That's right, let's talk another time. But another time was not the answer he wanted. Yet when Ian saw the troubled expression on ①-Kalyan's face,
not only did he not do as asked,
he instead strode straight toward her. Seeing this, ①-Kalyan was momentarily at a loss. Ian then solemnly explained to her, you misunderstood, ①-Kalyan. To me, you are the most important. You still haven't answered me. Why were you crying just now? Claude was forcibly reduced to a background board just like that. Did these two people take him for thin air?
How irritating.
Just then, her brother stepped in to save the situation again. Prince Ian ①-J-o. Suddenly being called by his full name was still quite intimidating. Ian quickly and tactfully said he was only joking. Only then did Claude leave in relief. ①-Kalyan could feel that the young Duke was obviously angry, and she could not help feeling a little guilty. Young Dukahal. Ian stroked his chin, deep in thought. For an androgynous man, two grown men were openly and secretly jealous of each other, and never missed a chance to casually diss one another between the lines. But right now, the person they cared about was not present. As the substitute for his older brother, ①-Kalyan did not even have the right to sit at the table and eat, only because his mother feared that he would steal his brother Jilin's spotlight. But everyone present thought highly of ①-Kalyan, so they asked why he was not there. The lady actually smiled and lied, saying that ①-Kalyan was not feeling well and was resting. Because I am away from the estate all year round, ①-Kalyan's health has also worsened quite a bit. Claude did not believe a single word of ①-Nada's explanation. All he could think about was that ①-Kalyan had cried just now. Actually, even if ①-Kalyan appeared at a meal in this kind of setting, he would probably feel so sick that he would vomit or even faint. So that was why he had deliberately stayed away and not come, right? Today, he would probably only be able to make do with some candy for a meal. At that thought, the candy before his eyes suddenly caught his attention. Come here, take this to ①-Kalyan Bell. Unexpectedly, Ian was also worried that ①-Kalyan had not eaten properly. Tell him that not eating properly is a bad habit. This handsome gesture made even the Crown Prince look at him in a better light. If ①-Kalyan's condition keeps getting worse, then this time I will take him to Gear. Hearing this, ①-Nada was instantly terrified. She absolutely could not let Prince Ian disrupt her plans. Unexpectedly, Jilin also jumped in to add to the chaos. Thank you for your kindness. If his condition really worsens, then we will do as you say. In fact, Ian was not speaking casually. He was serious. In a place like this, a child with no ability to protect himself would find it hard to truly endure. Maybe it would even be better for him to go to Gear. I think this place is not suitable for ①-Kalyan. What do you think? Claude, who was suddenly asked, was full of question marks. I'm asking about that piece of meat. That meat is from Gear. Without hesitation, Claude spat out all the meat he had just eaten. Please forgive my rudeness. Gear's food really does not suit the taste of people from the Empire very well. Is that so? As he said this, the corner of his mouth lifted into a meaningful smile. It does not even look very appetizing. It was not made from rotten meat, was it? At that point, the Crown Prince urgently stopped him. Only then did Claude stop talking. Sorry, I will excuse myself first. I will definitely attend the after-dinner banquet. At this moment, he did not want to see the person before him at all, trying every possible way to avoid me, yet chatting so enthusiastically with that foreigner. It really makes me furious. As soon as he came out, he happened to see a maid carrying meat. The maid was startled by Claude's sudden shout.
So these foods were meant to be sent to ①-Kalyan.
But in his impression, compared with anything else, ①-Kalyan liked sweets more. So an interesting idea immediately popped into his head. Take that away and bring the candy from the banquet. To think he wanted to use Gear's food to please ①-Kalyan. It seemed he did not understand ①-Kalyan at all. At that thought, his mood instantly turned from cloudy to sunny. Go get what Kellyanne really likes. The maid carried the candy and knocked at Kellyanne's door for quite a while, but there was never any response. Claude could not help but frown slightly. At this moment, in the back garden of the Marquis' estate, the maids were holding a farewell party for Kellyanne. Everyone is very reluctant to see you go. Kellyanne had felt like he was sitting on pins and needles every day in the estate, but without realizing it, he had also come to have so many people who cared about him. After you go to the capital, don't forget us either. Thank you for always treating us so well. Betty was like a mother. The one most unwilling to see Kellyanne leave was her. So Kellyanne hugged Betty tightly. Thank you. It was just like the eldest son of a family leaving home for a long journey for the first time. And Betty repeatedly reminded Kellyanne of many things. Don't get hurt and don't wander outside alone late at night either. The kinder people are to you, the more you should keep your guard up, especially those who tempt you with food. You must be careful. Of course, the most important thing was still to find his mother. Encouraged, Kellyanne was now full of confidence. This might be the last time he would ever see these people. Just then, a large bowl of candy was handed in front of him. He lifted his eyes in confusion, but the maid opposite him merely gave a respectful bow, then turned and left. Just as he was wondering who had sent it, a familiar back came into his sight. It was actually the young duke. Only then did he feel at ease and pick up the candy on the table. Actually, ever since he was little, he had always thought Claude was scary. It was hard to define this person in just one sentence. He always made people inexplicably nervous, afraid that if they were not careful, he would laugh at them. Sometimes he also liked playing pranks. He was like the scent of lavender. And sometimes he would also be inexplicably gentle to people. Kellyanne picked up a piece of candy and put it into his mouth. The sweet taste instantly spread through his mouth. Honestly, I'm no longer a child who likes sweets. But the burning tips of his ears exposed what he was really thinking at this moment. Time quickly came to the next day. His older brother was the first to come see him off, but he looked utterly exhausted. When he learned that their mother would not come to see him off, although he had long since stopped expecting it, he still could not help feeling a little disappointed. Seeing this, Jilin pulled Kellyanne into his arms. But considering the difference between men and women, Kellyanne still pushed his brother away. Seeing an opportunity, Ian immediately pounced over and also wanted a hug from Kellyanne. But the brother and sister directly ignored him. Brother, please greet mother for me. All right, let's meet in the capital later. Then I'll be going first. As soon as he turned around, he saw Ian standing there pitifully in a daze. Kellyanne let out a heavy sigh, and only then reluctantly said goodbye to him as well, only because Prince Ian always did things that put him in difficult situations. At this moment, a figure swept past quickly. It was His Highness the Crown Prince, and he looked even worse than Jilin. I can't do it anymore. I will never drink Gear's strong liquor again. I'm taking this carriage. Kellyanne, you go by automobile instead. Last night, he had still been wondering what on earth the four of them had been doing all night, and who would have thought they had all gotten completely drunk. Are you still not getting in? Just then, the young duke's voice suddenly rang out. Why was he the only one who looked radiant and full of energy? Seeing that Kellyanne was still hesitating, Jilin gently patted his shoulder and encouraged him. Hurry and get in. An automobile is much faster than a carriage. It will definitely be quite a good experience. It's all right. His Grace the young duke is there. At this moment, Prince Ian let out a sneer. Isn't that young duke the most dangerous one? Saying strange things like this again, Kellyanne simply did not want to pay attention to him. The next second, however, his hand was suddenly grasped tightly. Ian bent down close to his ear and reminded him in a low voice. Men are all beasts. Kalia, you have to be careful. The sudden closeness made Kellyanne's little face flush red at once. She sternly scolded Ian, but the man merely smiled lightly. How is a scene like this any different from flirting? Claude's jealousy was practically overflowing. I hope you will stop wasting my time. Hearing this, Kellyanne hurriedly apologized and got into the car. Claude was still verbally blaming the crown prince for drinking too much and delaying things, but his gaze kept unconsciously sneaking over to Kellyanne. This time, he was really leaving. Everyone, goodbye. You smell very sweet. It seemed those candies really were unusually sweet. On his first time riding in a car, the young master made a fool of himself. One sudden break directly flung him forward because he had not fastened his seatbelt. Fortunately, the quick-eyed and quick-handed young duke grabbed him at once. Only then did he avoid getting hurt. But were these hands really the hands of a boy? They were far too slender. Afraid of being exposed, Kellyanne immediately pulled his hand back. I can eat a lot. The candy you gave me yesterday was especially sweet and especially sticky. It felt like it was almost sticking my mouth shut, but I still finished all of it. That way, it did make sense. Actually, there was one question that had always bothered Claude. In order to confirm it, he pulled Kellyanne's hand back again and gently sniffed it in front of the tip of his nose. With that kind of action, and in that kind of atmosphere, Kellyanne's little face immediately turned as red as a tomato. How is the smell? Very good. You should sleep for a while. Even by car, we still have a long way to go. After what had just happened, the instigator could still be so calm. Kellyanne widened his eyes, but not long afterward, Several loud bangs startled Claude again. This kid Kalyan could run into trouble even just sitting in a car. He knocked his head this loudly and could still keep sleeping. Having no other choice, Claude gently pulled him over into his arms. Because whether it was when he was little or now, Kalyan always made him unable to resist wanting to take care of him. Maybe because they were too close, that sweet scent became even stronger. For a man to give off such a fragrance, it always made him unable to resist wanting to get closer. This is way too sweet.
Just now too.
This guy was obviously a man, yet he was almost too enticing. But just as he was lost in thought, a sudden sound pulled him back to reality. It turned out that a button on the clothes had fallen off. It seems I've really gone mad. Or perhaps I am gradually going mad. A dangerous thought instantly rose in his heart. At this moment, Kalyan's lips carried a fatal temptation. After all, to make him keep drawing closer as if under a spell was really damnable. Only after getting out of the car did Kalyan finally wake up, touching the little bump on his forehead and thinking about it. And his mouth also felt damp. Could it be that he had drooled while sleeping? Could riding in a car really be this bumpy? Kalyan actually did not stay in the dormitory. This made Claude very unhappy. It turned out that his father was worried he would not adapt to dormitory life. So he arranged a place for him to stay outside. But with Kalyan's qualifications, the academy would definitely assign him the largest room, so there was really no need for him to move out and live elsewhere. When he heard Kalyan say that he was introverted, Claude curled his lips into a smile. He even teased him, saying that since you can be so close with a man you just met for the first time, it seems your introversion excludes foreigners. Actually, before that, Kalyan had already met Prince Ian, so he did not react for a moment. But in Claude's eyes, that reaction instead looked more like a guilty cover-up. He glared fiercely at the lying Kalyan, glaring so hard that Kalyan's whole body prickled. Only then did he finally realize that Claude was referring to Prince Ian. Kalyan was just about to explain something, but Claude mercilessly interrupted him. He had no desire at all to hear that foreigner's name from Kalyan's mouth. That wafting sweet fragrance from the young master always made the young duke unable to resist wanting to get close. He had finally managed to suppress the impulse in his heart, when with a clunk, the wheel rolled over a stone. This road is really too hard to travel on. Your Grace, are you all right? Unexpectedly, an accident actually brought the two of them closer. Claude hurriedly backed away, but his face was already red all the way to his ears. Even after returning to the residence, the image of kissing Kalyan just now still lingered in his mind for a long time. He had actually fallen for a man. Damn it, Kalyan. Actually, more than once, Claude had felt that Kalyan did not seem like a man at all. Even the place he chose to live was deliberately similar in style to his own. As long as it had anything to do with that guy, he would always be unable to stop himself from thinking wildly. Just then, the royal family sent over an official cooperation document. After only one glance, Claude's eyes widened abruptly. Meanwhile, Kalyan was also quietly planning something important. His wardrobe had long since been stuffed full of cute women's clothes. Because his current appearance was far too different from when he was little, he was afraid that his mother might no longer recognize him. The one thing he absolutely could not give up on was finding his mother. A few days later, it was finally the day Kalyan had to report in. As soon as the gatekeeper heard his name, he was instantly shocked and hurriedly ran into the academy to report it. Just by standing there quietly, Kalyan had already become the center of everyone's attention. The gazes cast at him from all around hardly stopped at all. Not long after, the principal and his group actually came out personally to receive him. Kalyan Bell, I am very glad to see you again. That strange man with the mustache from last time was also there, and once again stared at him with a lewd grin. It made his skin crawl. Fortunately, the principal stepped in to relieve the situation in time. Let's go straight to the examination hall first. Tater has praised you quite a lot. Everyone is very curious about your exam results. On the way to the examination hall, the surroundings were full of noise. So, he's Belle? How can a man be so delicate looking? Suddenly, a familiar figure blocked the way. The moment he saw who it was, Kalyan was immediately very happy, since the last time he met Claude. Yet when faced with his greeting, the young duke actually turned his head away. This sudden avoidance filled Kalyan's head with question marks until he walked into the examination hall. The discussion around him still had not stopped. Did you see? He's really beautiful. How is his figure so petite? I heard he's an illegitimate child. Not one of these words escaped Claude's ears. Hello, young duke. You saw it too, didn't you? I haven't seen him for 4 years, and he still looks just as disgusting as ever. I used to think he didn't look like a man. Looking like that, who would think he's a man? The blonde-haired boy completely failed to notice that the young duke's face had already twisted in anger, and kept chattering on, mocking Kalyan as disgusting, saying that his whole body gave off a vulgar aura and that at a glance he looked like an illegitimate child brought back from outside. To actually let that kind of person enroll, Marquis Bell really has no regard for his reputation. Hearing this, Claude finally could not endure it any longer and stood up to glare angrily at Viscount Torin. Only then did Torin realize that he had spoken far too crudely. Before long, you may very well not be able to keep that tongue of yours. The moment these words came out, Torin broke into a cold sweat from fright. If you want to keep your tongue, then stop wagging it behind people's backs. A mere Viscount actually dares to make irresponsible remarks about the family affairs of Marquis Bell, who is deeply favored by the Emperor. I think you simply have no brain at all. Could it be that your head is full of livestock dung? Otherwise, how would you dare discuss the private affairs of a marquis's household? After being scolded like this, Torin's face had long since turned red with shame. As if unconvinced, he clenched his fists and took the initiative to admit that he had indeed spoken out of turn first. But with Kallian looking like that, wouldn't he become prey for those who fancy men? That remark, however, reminded him of something. I will remember your concern very clearly, being eyed by men who like men and treated as prey. Your imagination is truly impressive. After throwing out those words, he walked straight into the examination hall. Unexpectedly, the moment he entered, he saw Eddie standing in front of Kallian. As Claude drew closer step by step, the expression on Eddie's face became clearer and clearer. It seemed Torin's worries were not entirely without reason, simply because his looks were too delicate. The young master was criticized on his very first day of school. He was even targeted by a teacher with a bad reputation. Looking at that offensive wandering hand, the young duke's anger instantly rose to its peak. When he used to study under teacher Tater, Kallian had always felt that every subject was interesting, so he began to look forward to life at the academy. But after receiving the test paper, he felt very uncomfortable. This was nothing like an exam at all. Kallian's origins were already unclear, and people were constantly gossiping about his identity. These questions were practically like a trial of whether he was qualified to become a noble, and whether they should accept him into noble society at all. If this was what the academy was like, then he had probably expected too much from this place. Soon the exam ended. Eddie collected his paper. The first thing Kallian did after finishing the exam was go find Claude. At that moment, the other party was staring coldly at Eddie Kirkon. The instant he turned back and saw Kallian, Claude turned his head away once again. Kallian could not help but feel his heart tighten. What exactly was wrong with him? The group of teachers gathered around Kallian's test paper, their faces full of disbelief. Unexpectedly, he had gotten a perfect score. This was the first perfect score since Jilin Bell. As expected, it was the same bloodline. Everyone was full of praise for Kallian, because he had already decided to live off campus. The only thing left now was to choose a grade and a class. I think 9th grade suits you very well. Those words came from Eddie Kakon because 9th grade was exactly what he was in charge of. That was not too bad. There was no need to decide immediately, fortunately. It would be enough to decide within this week. The principal was looking for someone to show him around the academy. Claude, who had been avoiding him the whole time, voluntarily stepped forward instead. As you know, I have been waiting for Kallian to enroll all this time. Those words made Kallian's heart pound wildly. He had not expected that what the principal said back then had actually been true. The next second, his slender waist was pulled into someone's arms. Not only that, Claude also drew Kallian a little closer to his side. And so, Kallian walked out of the classroom stiffly like that. The crown prince's gossip-loving soul instantly burst into flames. When they arrived somewhere with no one around, Claude immediately put on a completely different expression. He warned Kallian that he absolutely could not go to 9th grade. As for the exact reason, he had no intention of explaining it. In short, you absolutely cannot go to 9th grade. But Kallian kept chasing him with questions. Eddie Kakhan, the teacher in charge of 9th grade, has a terrible reputation. Didn't you see something in his eyes? Kallian looked full of disdain. That's it? I thought you were going to say something serious. Don't you understand what that means? Your Grace, young Duke, I'm a student. I have no interest in rumors about professors. Right now, he simply had no energy left to care about anything else. He only wanted to level up as soon as possible. His brother had already returned, and Madame could not keep him here forever. He only wanted to find his mother as soon as possible and did not want any more trouble added to his life. As long as the professor's sexual orientation is not a problem. A figure with overwhelming pressure instantly loomed over him. Not a problem? Is that really what you think? Kallian thought Claude was just getting angry. Rather than dwell on this, he had actually heard that there was a super huge horse ranch at the academy. Don't change the subject. Go to 8th grade. Going straight to 9th grade is too rushed. If you enter 9th grade before adapting to academy life, you'll spend the entire next year buried in books. It would have been fine if he had just explained it properly from the start. Claude tilted his head and let out a whistle. The next second, a horse came galloping toward the two of them. Kallian had just raised his hand, about to greet it, when Claude lifted a hand to stop him. It will bite you. So this horse would only get close to its own master. But in the blink of an eye, he saw the look of anticipation on Kallian's face. Do you want to ride it? But the next second, he was immediately refused. Those tightly pressed lips were glistening, and it made him recall those beautiful memories again. Seriously, doesn't he have any self-awareness at all? The suddenly shortened distance made Kallian's eyes go wide in shock. Why, Your Grace? Young Duke, there's something on your lips. What is it? Let's tour the academy another time. The moment he turned his head away, the tips of his ears had already turned red. At that moment, the household guards came looking for them. Claude quickly sent Kallian away. His Majesty the Emperor said that if the Duke family's private soldiers were incorporated into the capital security force, then Your Grace, young Duke, could personally take charge of commanding them. The criminal who harmed Miss Marilyn probably has not fled far yet. The person is very likely hiding in Ruber. We must find someone who is very familiar with the roads and act tonight at once. After 4 years, the young master finally put on women's clothes again. He had to hurry and find his mother. While he was hesitating over whether this hair color would be too conspicuous, the maid Peppa thoughtfully reminded him that so many years had already passed. If even his hair color had changed, how could his mother possibly recognize him? Hearing that, Kalyan finally felt at ease enough to head out. He hired a carriage. "Please wait for me on the north side. I'll come out from there." Unexpectedly, a noble young lady was actually so familiar with the roads in the slums. After carefully instructing the driver to make sure to wait until he came back out, Kalyan set foot on the road home with a nervous heart. Just a little farther ahead, and he would arrive. As long as he turned that corner, he would be able to see the mother he had longed for day and night. Kalyan ran excitedly toward his mother. Who would have thought that he would crash into someone at the corner instead? With a bang, he slammed straight into the other person's arms. The strong impact made him fall backward uncontrollably. At the critical moment, someone caught him tightly in their arms. He was still feeling relieved that he had not fallen, when Claude above him was already too shocked to speak.
Kalyan?
Hearing that familiar voice, Kalyan's heart instantly skipped a beat. The moment he looked up, he met the young duke's disbelieving eyes. Why was Claude here? Kalyan could not react for a moment, and under Claude's repeated calls, he suddenly turned around and pulled up his hood to cover his face. The young duke's sudden appearance made his whole body tremble in fear. If Claude discovered his true identity, the consequences would be unimaginable. But in the next second, the man apologized in a low voice. "My deepest apologies. I mistook you for someone else, miss." At this moment, Claude even began to wonder whether there was something wrong with his own mind. How could this woman possibly be Kalyan? Faced with Claude's endless questions, Kalyan merely shook his head lightly and did not say a single word. If this continued, sooner or later, he would give himself away. Kalyan kept backing away in fear, but the young duke still refused to let him go, pressing forward step by step. He lowered his head, wanting to see this woman's face clearly. "Can't you speak?" He had not expected that his clumsy acting had actually fooled the man. As if grabbing hold of a life-saving straw, Kalyan nodded frantically.
"So you can understand me."
"If you're lost too, then come with me." On one side was the lost Claude, and on the other was the mother Kalyan had been yearning for. Very soon, Kalyan carefully noticed that Claude had been leaving marks on the walls all along the way. It seemed he really was lost. What should he do? He could not just leave him here and ignore him. After hesitating again and again, Kalyan finally gathered his courage, ran in front of Claude and spread his arms, then pointed in the direction of the exit, signaling for the man to follow him. In the end, he still chose to lead Claude out first. The woman before him was obviously very familiar with the roads of Ruber. "Are you a local?" But Kalyan still gave no response at all. Before long, they arrived at the agreed place. Thinking he had been deceived, Claude's expression suddenly darkened. "Hey, you're pretending to be mute, aren't you?"
Who exactly are you?
If he was exposed here, then everything would be completely over. Thinking that this might be a trap, Claude gently placed his hand on his sword. Who would have expected that in the very next second, the woman would directly abandon him and run off? This sudden escape caught Claude completely off guard. Kalyan quickly jumped onto the carriage, and even the driver was startled by the scene before him.
"What?"
"Miss, could you be a criminal?"
"No."
"If anyone asks where I got on the carriage, tell them you picked me up south of Lionbridge, then take me to the front of the St. Matthew statue." What a dangerous young lady you really are. After taking the money, the driver finally drove away, and just like that, Kalyan escaped smoothly. Claude's personal guards also arrived belatedly, unexpectedly. Even he had gotten lost, and they had only found this place by following the marks left behind by the young duke. "Help me investigate the carriages that crossed the bridge tonight." It was a dark green Landau carriage. "I've finally found the guide we were looking for." The young master sneaked into the slums at night, only to unexpectedly run into the young duke at a corner. Fortunately, his clumsy acting was not seen through. In the end, he returned home safely despite the scare. But even so, Kalyan was still so worried that he stayed awake all night. He had clearly been just a tiny bit away from reaching it, yet he had happened to lose focus at exactly that moment. The maid Peppa burst and flustered. She immediately started tidying up Kalyan's room. "Young master, now is not the time to be daydreaming. Please get ready quickly. His Grace the young duke has arrived." When Kalyan timidly went downstairs, Claude had already been waiting for a long time. "Why are you so slow?" "Sorry, I didn't sleep well." "Why did you come so early? What do you think?" "I'm not your Grace the young duke. So how would I know what you're thinking?" Kalyan's reply successfully amused Claude. Being watched while eating made him feel uncomfortable all over. Because he really had no appetite, Kalyan ate in tiny bites. This made Claude particularly concerned. "You don't need to be so restrained. You can eat a little more. I'm taking you out with me."
"Jilin asked me to."
He repeatedly reminded me to take his adorable younger brother Kalyan and help him get familiar with life in the capital. "But your Grace, young duke." Before he could finish speaking, the man interrupted him. "Call me Claude. Don't call me your Grace anymore. I don't want to hear it." Hearing that, Kalyan coughed lightly twice to ease the awkwardness.
What?
You don't like it? Kalyan hurriedly said no.
It's not that I don't like it.
Then eat. Fill your stomach first, and then we'll go out. I advise you to eat a little more, Kalyan. Before long, they appeared in the busiest part of the city center. The two handsome young men walked side by side, drawing frequent stares from passers-by. Remember this road. When locals give directions, they all use Cohen Bank as a landmark. For someone who was going straight into 9th grade, memorizing a bit of road like this should have been easy. But Kalyan was not listening at all. He muttered to himself in a low voice. I've heard of this place, too. 7 kilometers northeast of Cohen is the academy, and 3 kilometers away is the Imperial Palace. After that, a silence fell between them. Claude himself could not figure out what exactly his feelings for Kalyan were, that they could make him become this ridiculous. He had been attracted to a man, had even kissed him, and yet had called out Kalyan's name to a woman. He had never expected himself to make such a low-level mistake, and he felt deeply unwilling to accept it. Aren't you coming? The moment he raised his eyes, he saw Kalyan, who seemed to be glowing all over, smiling at him brilliantly. This unfamiliar feeling, in which impulse overpowered reason, made him very unhappy. All day long, Kalyan was in an especially good mood. The people of Italy looked very relaxed, and everyone seemed to be living quite comfortably. Where there is sunlight, there will be shadows. The brighter the light, the deeper the darkness. Everything follows this kind of rule. Don't jump to conclusions so easily. But Kalyan, who had walked out from the darkest place, had a different opinion. People living in darkness may not necessarily know that they are living in darkness. Perhaps not knowing would actually make them happier, because happiness itself is relative. When people see others who are different from them and better than they are, they feel unhappy. But if they know nothing from the very beginning, they will not feel unhappy. Instead, they will feel that such a life is only natural, and then satisfaction or dissatisfaction would not even come into question. These deeply empathetic words left Claude unable to refute him for a moment.
Kalyan.
Claude suddenly spoke, startling him slightly. Relax your mind for now. We still have one more place to go. As soon as he finished speaking, a jar full of candy was tossed into Kalyan's arms. Sure enough, Kalyan really liked it. Sure enough, he's still just a child. He was soothed in an instant. Hearing that, Kalyan angrily explained, I just like sweet things. Don't always treat me like a child. I'm not treating you like a child, but you are young. Then your grace the young duke isn't that much older than I am, right? Claude was instantly choked speechless. He could only simply change the subject. We've seen the light. Now, let's go experience the darkness. We're going to Ruber, entering from the northern entrance. Hearing this, Kalyan's heart instantly fell into chaos. Could it be that what happened in Ruber last night had been discovered? All along the way, Kalyan felt deeply uneasy. Going to Ruber so suddenly might have already made Claude suspicious of him. After hesitating again and again, she finally decided she could not just sit around and wait to die. Is the Ruber you mentioned the place I know? Unexpectedly, Claude asked back what kind of place Ruber was in his understanding. Kalyan shook her head repeatedly, her face full of resistance. What else could it be? I heard that it is a place that must never be approached. One should not even entertain the thought of going in. But that explanation did not convince Claude, because from Kalyan's room, Ruber could be seen just across the Leon River. Unexpectedly, even such a subtle detail had been noticed by Claude. Now, no matter what, she could only keep pretending to be clueless to the very end. Kalyan suddenly put on a look of extreme fear. Really? That dark place really is Ruber? I see. Not long after, the carriage arrived at their destination. This place was the Empire's mistake, and also the Empire's shame. People also called Ruber Itir's trouble. But at this moment, Kalyan's mind was filled with nothing but anxiety. Claude was most likely testing him now. So he lied to Claude and said that he was very afraid. It smells terrible here. I feel a little nauseous. I don't want to look anymore. Let's go back quickly, all right? But Claude clearly had no intention of letting her off so easily. Even if this is an abandoned place, people still live here. Isn't this exactly what you called the dark shadow born beneath the light? Kalyan was panicking badly inside. At this moment, she could not respond in any way and had to pretend she knew nothing. Suddenly, the big boy in front of him began trembling violently. I want to go back. I'm really scared, okay? His voice had already taken on a sobbing tone, and his eyes were brimming with tears. That appearance made Claude's heart tighten slightly. In the end, he still gave in to Kalyan and agreed to his request. On the way back, Kalyan did not say a single word and only lowered his head to fiddle with his fingers. It seemed he had really been frightened. But why do I always feel that you know Ruber very well? The moment those words came out, Kalyan broke out in 2 drops of cold sweat. He swore that he had never come here and had never gone inside, but all he got in return was Claude's cold expression. Did he really believe him? He was truly impossible to read. Just as he was thinking that, Claude suddenly turned his head back. Kalyan stiffened straight at once, like a guilty thief caught in the act. I have a dinner appointment, so I'll just take you home directly. To him, this was undoubtedly the most pleasant thing Claude had said all day. He immediately let out a sigh of relief. But Claude became unhappy instead. If a person is always the same, that is boring too. Those inexplicable words left Kalyan full of confusion. Are you really that happy? Every time I say we're going back, you always look especially happy. I see. The bewildered Kalyan in order to coax Claude into a better mood, kept desperately searching for reasons to explain himself the whole way. Before long, they arrived at Kalian's residence. She had clearly already said goodbye to Claude, but unexpectedly, the man walked straight past her toward the back. "Before the carriage comes, I'll impose here for a while." The moment those words were spoken, Kalian felt as if he had been struck by lightning from a clear sky, and even Claude was speechless at that expression. "Can you stop making that kind of face? Being with you always makes me feel like a villain, you know?" He immediately realized that he had indeed gone a bit too far, and scratched his cheek as he apologized to Claude. Scratching his cheek, he apologized to Claude. "Only you would dislike me so openly." "I am not openly disliking you." "Then you mean you dislike me in secret?" At that moment, the horse nearby drew his attention. "It seems your house has a guest. Or should I say, an uninvited guest has come?" The moment he stepped inside, Kalian sensed that something was wrong. The maids were standing neatly in a row, as if waiting for him to return. Kalian mouthed to the maid, asking who had come from a very distant place. Before the maid could finish speaking, Claude unexpectedly gave the answer first. "A guest from Gear, I see." Claude stared at the casual and lazy visitor on the sofa, and his expression instantly darkened. His face was full of displeasure. "Prince ⑨-②Forced." Hearing that, Ian slowly stood up. "Oh my, isn't this young Duke Claude Hall?" From the way he stretched, it was obvious he had already been here for a long time. Kalian was so shocked that the hair on his body stood on end. "Your Highness, why are you here?" Hearing Kalian call him, Ian smiled especially brightly. That handsome face looked especially irritating in someone's eyes. Seeing that the young duke had absolutely no intention of leaving, Kalian quietly reminded him that it was almost dinner time. But Claude shot him a cold glare. So Claude did not like Kalian calling him young duke. "Let's bring the guest to my villa instead. I won't feel at ease leaving the two of you here together." Kalian looked completely baffled as he asked blankly, "What is the problem with that?" The very next second after asking that question with his head lowered, the candy in his arms was snatched away by Claude. "I don't want to see you reeking of sweetness all over anymore." He truly had no idea what kind of temper this person was acting up over again. The way the two of them bickered looked especially irritating in Ian's eyes. The next second, he suddenly walked over and gently rested his chin on Kalian's shoulder.
"Stop dawdling.
"Let's hurry and go have a proper meal. I've waited for you all day, and I'm starving to death." Kalian immediately told Ian to move away. He also glanced guiltily at Claude. Unexpectedly, the other party had already walked to his side. He pulled Kalian over in one motion. "Let me entertain your highness instead." Kalian has only just arrived in Atir, so he has no spare mind to entertain guests right now. But Ian absolutely refused. He only wanted to stay with Kalian because the journey had been too tiring. He planned to spend the entire day curled up on the sofa with Kalian and had no desire to go out at all. Those outrageous words directly made a drop of cold sweat appear on Kalian's forehead. "So you should go back." The scene shifted, and Claude had already appeared at the dinner gathering he had arranged. But he suddenly caught sight of the daughter of this household and immediately thought of Kalian. That fellow always made him restless. So before he even had the chance to take a single bite of food, he hurriedly rushed back. The driver asked him where he wanted to go, and unexpectedly, to Kalian's house slipped right out. The driver was so shocked that his eyes widened. "I misspoke. To the villa." Thinking back to just now, Kalian had stood between the two of them. "Ian, I don't want to roll around on the sofa with you. Also, young Duke Claude, I will send His Highness the Prince to the Marquis's residence. So please go back first." The moment he thought of how Kalian had called him not ⑨-②Forced but simply Ian, he became inexplicably irritated. After all these years, Kalian had always addressed him only as young duke. That damned prince must definitely have ulterior motives toward Kalian. At that moment, his knight subordinate, Avon, arrived. There was finally a result to the matter the young duke had previously asked him to investigate. There was only one coachman who drove the green landau carriage that night. A noble young lady got out in front of the statue of St. Matthew. As for what happened after they parted, he did not know. But the only noble residence nearby belonged to Claude's family, and he remembered that the villa had not received any guests that night either. That being the case, it could only mean the coachman was lying. Meanwhile, Kalian stared at the candy and simply could not make sense of it no matter how he thought about it. Even Ian told him to eat properly and cut down on sweets, but he really had not eaten that much. "Do you want one?" This sudden feeding was exactly what Ian had been hoping for. Holding Kalian's hand, he accepted the feeding in an excellent mood, and during it, the tip of his tongue lightly brushed Kalian's finger. As if still unsatisfied, he even took that hand and kissed it once more. Kalian's little face instantly turned completely red. Please mind the dignity of the royal family. Just because his hand was kissed once while feeding him, the young master was so frightened that he kept retreating. He even urged the maid to quickly bring a towel, and he accused a prince of a nation of doing something so disgusting. Just as he was trying to get away, he was stopped by Ian again. Now that there was finally no one else disturbing them, he wanted to have a proper talk with Kalian. So, after Ian repeatedly pleaded, Kalian still sat down unwillingly. "Young Duke Claude doesn't know your woman?" Unexpectedly, such a blunt question was the very first thing he asked. Kalian reminded him to be careful, because walls have ears. But Ian paid no attention at all to Kalian's feelings, and continued pressing him. asking how long he planned to live under this identity. Seeing Ian's serious expression, Kalyan could only answer patiently, "I don't know." The next second, Ian suddenly moved closer. It turned out that his imperial father hoped he could form a marriage alliance with a noble of the Kayan Empire. Without question, this was the easiest form of diplomacy. Hearing that, Kalyan thought the other party wanted him to help introduce someone. Who would have thought that he would be firmly denied by the other party? Because he planned to formally propose marriage to Marquis Bell. What followed was another stretch of silence between the two. Coming back to his senses, Kalyan quickly demanded to know whether he had gone mad. "But you are clearly a woman. How about getting engaged next year? Hold a formal social ball, return to the social circle, and appear as Kalia Bell? Or is it that you already have a man you like?" All of a sudden, Ian's gaze turned sharp. Could it be young Duke Claude Hall? His thoughts having been struck directly, Kalyan hurriedly denied it. But Ian was not flustered. There was still a year's time anyway. He could let Kalyan completely escape that which like Martianess. Unexpectedly, Kalyan still refused, because he knew very clearly that he was not a real noble, and disappearing without a trace was the most correct choice. But Ian, who did not know the truth, still refused to give up and earnestly tried to persuade him to agree. Suddenly, Kalyan sprang to his feet. Proposing to someone you've only met 3 times is far too abrupt. And besides, right now she only wants to properly be the Bell family's second son. Ian, fine then. In that case, you'll only be able to hold a funeral. Kalyan froze completely when he heard that. Were you eavesdropping? A graceful Marchioness ought to speak more quietly. Could it be that I was the only one who heard? The Marchioness's way of thinking is truly frightening, but I do not want that either. I don't want to be dragged into political games like diplomacy or marriage alliances. Unexpectedly, Ian's next words shocked him into standing there speechless. This is not some complicated issue. I am simply captivated by you. That is all. So, how about using 1 year to get to know each other? As soon as those words came out, Kalyan unconsciously tightened his grip on the candy jar. Ian's step-by-step pressing approach made him feel annoyed, just as he was overwhelmed and at his wit's end. Ian told him that Jilin would arrive in 10 days, and before that, they would be alone together. When he said this, the smile on his face remained dazzlingly bright. The next day, Kalyan officially went to the academy for classes, still attracting quite a lot of attention on the way. At this moment, he only felt that this body seemed no longer to belong to him. Ever since hearing the terrible news that he would be alone with Ian for 10 days, he had been so troubled that he had not been able to sleep all night. He had to hurry and write to his brother, telling him to come back as soon as possible. At that moment, a figure silently came up behind him. It was that forgetful Viscount Torin again. This time, Kalyan had only one person by his side, which was just right for Torin to try to regain face. The moment they met, he began belittling Kalyan, saying he was nothing more than an insignificant imitation. He even slandered him by saying that he had only gotten the academy's admission notice by relying on a pretty face like a woman's. "Torin, you're only a first year. You'd better not go against me, a 9th year. Otherwise, you will only tarnish the reputation of Marquis Bell's family. You know it yourself too. Don't you, Kalyan Bell? You are the shame of the Marquis family." It seemed Torin's information was truly very out of date. A beautiful hand lightly landed on the shoulder of the person who had come, and he responded word by word. "I have already received the Marquis' approval. If you disregard me, may I take it to mean that you are slandering the Marquis?" Speaking carelessly about the Marquis like that, it seems the young Viscount is quite confident in bearing the consequences. "Also, I am not a first year, but a 9th year. We will be seeing each other often from now on. Since you dislike me so much, then please make sure to stay out of my way yourself in the future." Just 2 hours earlier, Kalyan had been called to the principal's office, because he had claimed in front of Viscount Torin that he was a 9th year. Even though Claude had repeatedly warned him not to choose the 9th year, Kalyan could only go against the young Duke's wishes. The sudden appearance of a military officer made him somewhat flustered. After all, having a conflict with a current student right after enrolling could indeed possibly bring in the guard unit. At that moment, the officer suddenly spoke, startling him. "Has your voice always been this thin?" Kalyan froze. "I want to know whether you can use weapons like a dagger or something similar. I'm not skilled, but I know a little." It turned out that this officer had come to select a suitable person. In other words, a man who could disguise himself as a noble young lady. Recently, someone had been specifically targeting noble young ladies and attacking them. Now the nobles were terrified and did not dare let the daughters in their households go out at all. So the criminals had begun targeting even younger children. In order to catch the real culprit, the military wanted to find bait and lure the snake out of its hole. But everyone in the combat unit was a burly man. They needed to find a boy, which was why they had come to the academy. And Kalyan's appearance happened to fit the requirements. When the time came, he would only need to appear at the designated locations. For example, the library near Ruber, the theater, or the train station. At this moment, Kalyan still could not make up his mind. But in the end, the balance in his heart still tipped toward refusal. At this moment, a carriage came toward him. The curly-haired woman in the carriage instantly caught his eye. When he looked closely, his pupils shook violently. That person was clearly the mother he had been longing for day and night. Without caring about anything else, he took off running after the carriage. Wait, please stop." But in the end, 2 legs could not outrun 4. And that cry of mom ultimately never made it out. It was hard to believe that in a place like this, he would miss his mother at such a close distance. Meanwhile, Claude learned of the military's intentions. When he heard that Kalyan had not agreed yet, he finally let out a slight sigh of relief. But he still could not help being curious about who had come up with the idea of making Kalyan dress as a woman. Unexpectedly, the other party kept their lips sealed, and instead asked Claude why he was so angry. Kalyan Bell is the second son of a marquis family, and also the younger brother whom my dear friend cherishes greatly, even if he is hurt in the slightest. Everyone had better prepare themselves mentally first. At that moment, a visitor arrived at the door, and the one who came was actually Kalyan, who had turned back. He decided to accept the proposal. Claude also came out, and after nodding to the officer, he ignored Kalyan and walked straight past him. It was obvious that he was avoiding him again. Before Kalyan had time to think further, the officer warmly invited him into the house. For this operation, they had not only received support from the Duke's private guards, but had also borrowed manpower from the Selby family. In fact, the person who recommended Kalyan to the officer was Marilyn. She said that no one was more suitable for this matter than him, and also asked the officer to pass along a message, inviting Kalyan to visit the Selby Marquis' residence 4 days later. Ever since Claude saw that woman in Ruber who resembled Kalyan, he had been unable to stop himself from overthinking. The moment he heard that Kalyan was going to take part in a dangerous mission, he started sulking uncontrollably, even though it clearly had nothing to do with him. As long as it had anything to do with Kalyan, he simply could never remain indifferent. At that moment, the Crown Prince arrived and brought news that Kalyan had advanced to the 9th grade. Claude's expression turned dreadful when he heard this. I heard he also made young Count Torin utterly lose face. Kalyan really is quite interesting. Although the Crown Prince had recently been confined to the Imperial Castle, he had already heard about how Claude taught Torin a lesson because of Kalyan. He did not believe for a second that it was all that nonsense about doing it for the Marquis. After all, he was quite looking forward to seeing whether Claude's preferences would become the same as his. At this moment, Claude also began to question his own preferences. Meanwhile, at Kalyan's residence, the maid Pepe blocked the door. It turned out that Kalyan had once instructed that Ian was not allowed to go out without her permission. But how could Pepe possibly stop the nimble Ian? With a feint, he successfully slipped away. He even thoughtfully told her not to worry, promising that he absolutely would not go out alone. Tell my brother that I will go back in a year. I'm afraid I cannot do as you wish. The order I received was to bring you back immediately. He did not even know when he had become this close with his brother. In truth, his brother was only worried that if war broke out, Ian would not be able to stand on the front line. After all, looking across the whole country, there was no weapon stronger than him. That was why his brother had people watching him. Does brother's plan really have any hope of succeeding? The other party nodded. Just then, Kalyan's carriage arrived, and Ian raised a radiant smile. Tell my brother that it is still too early to raise troops now, and it would be a pity to destroy Kane. There are many wonderful things here. Kalyan did not let Ian wander around because there were many people here who disliked the Gia people. But after thinking it over, Ian did not care. After all, he only wanted to see Kalyan as soon as possible. Ian was always tirelessly saying nauseatingly sweet things. What mattered most now was hurrying home. He reached out and invited Ian into the carriage. It was clearly just an utterly ordinary gesture, yet it made him freeze. He gently placed his hand on that small hand. What are you still dawdling for? Every time I see you, I want to become a little puppy. Kalyan was completely baffled and asked Ian what he meant by that. The only response he got was a burst of loud laughter. One day, a week after school started, Eddie came to find Kalyan when he was alone. He asked with concern whether Kalyan was adapting to school life. But Kalyan's mind was full of only one thing: why Claude had not been seen attending class. Eddie told him that Claude had stayed at the academy not for studying, but to monitor the Crown Prince, because the Crown Prince was far too unrestrained. At that moment, a light rain began to fall from the sky. Back then, he had left Ruber during the rainy season, and now he had returned to Ruber during the rainy season again. On top of that, his accidental encounter with his mother last time had also given him quite a bit of confidence. Only one thing absolutely could not be given up: finding his mother. After Kalyan finishes class today, could he? Before the other party could finish speaking, Kalyan slipped away at top speed, leaving Eddie standing there alone in confusion. Kalyan really is quite adorable. Just now, Kalyan arrived at the Selby Marquis' residence as agreed. In order to uncover the true culprit behind the serial murder case, he accepted Marilyn's uncle's proposal. Because in the academy, there was no one more suitable than him for dressing as a woman. Accompanied by the maid Pepe, Kalyan arrived at the dressing room. Ignoring the suggestion made by the Selby household steward, he picked out a brown wig on his own, because he was afraid Claude would recognize his honey-colored hair. Seeing that the steward had absolutely no intention of leaving, Pepe's boyfriend energy burst forth. My young master especially hates having others attend to him at close quarters. The next second, the steward was locked outside the door. Meanwhile, Marilyn was deeply moved. She had not expected that the young duke would personally step in. You really still could not stop worrying about my matter, could you? Claude was speechless. But I'm already fine now, so you really did not have to come in person. Claude could not listen any longer. I believe that in order to ease the noble's unease, the ducal family really should come forward to show support. Then there was no need for you to personally escort Kalyan either. Those words struck right at the center of his heart. Originally, he had not intended to involve himself in this matter. But when he learned that ①-②Forced had applied to escort Kalyan, he instantly sucked in a sharp breath. In the end, he took the initiative to wade into this mess himself. In less time than it took to drink a cup of tea, Kalyan had finished his disguise. Claude's eyes were practically about to fall out. Just what kind of beauty could make him lose himself to this extent? Marilyn followed his line of sight and looked over, only to see that Kalyan had become a graceful young girl. Even she, who had always prided herself on her beauty, could not help feeling inferior. Sensing that burning gaze, Kalyan suddenly lifted his head. The moment their eyes met, even the air seemed to freeze. Coming back to his senses, Kalyan lowered his head in fright. Claude's heart was filled with mixed emotions. You really do look ridiculous like this. Who would have thought this was the second son of the Bell family? On the surface, Kalyan smiled at those words, but inside he had already started cursing. Only then did he learn that Claude had come to protect him. You agreed to such a strange proposal and dragged me into suffering along with you. Then why didn't you refuse? But when he turned to face Marilyn, he put on another face. It is truly too rude of me to appear before a beautiful lady looking like this. But Marilyn was still brooding over the fact that Kalyan had privately put on a brown wig. Kalyan was panicking inside and could only brush it off by saying that hair color was too conspicuous. How could such a small scheme possibly escape Claude's eyes? Those eyes, sharp like an eagle's, had already seen through everything. At that moment, the steward handed over a neckband. It looked like cloth, but it was actually made from the material used for knight armor and could prevent injuries to the neck. Kalyan had not expected Marilyn, who had always disliked him, to be so thoughtful at such a critical moment, and for an instant he was even a little moved. Marilyn was just about to put it on him herself, when Claude stopped her. For something that concerns a life, it is more reassuring if he does it personally. Even without this thing, I would not let your neck be hurt. That sudden promise made his heart pound wildly. Claude really did make people feel very safe. One person rejoices while another grieves. Marilyn stood to the side, jealous beyond measure. After the two of them left, Marilyn asked the maid who exactly had helped Kalyan change clothes. The answer, without question, was the maid he had brought. That made her even more suspicious of Kalyan's true gender. Next time, before the disguise is complete, you are absolutely not allowed to leave the room, understood? Yes, miss. Sitting in the carriage with him again after so long, the atmosphere was as awkward as ever. In the end, Claude was the first to break the silence. When you were about to enter Ruber before, you were trembling with fear. What wind blew this time to make you willing to help with something like this? Kalyan had already prepared his explanation. Because the officer asked for my help, he said that no one but me could do it, so I could only help. That beautiful appearance made Claude blush again. The next second, he stuffed a short sword into Kalyan's hand, and under the pretense of teaching him how to use it, the young duke seized the chance to grow closer to Kalyan. It made Kalyan's heart race uncontrollably. As long as he was with Kalyan, he could never stop himself from wanting to get closer. As soon as they arrived at the designated location, the royal library, Kalyan was spotted by his archenemy, Torin. He chased after him all the way through 9 streets. But every time Kalyan turned around, Torin hid again. Kalyan had come to the library to find his contact, but he did not know who that person was. And Claude's task was only to escort him. From here on, Kalyan had to act alone. Just as he was at his wit's end, a figure slowly approached him. The next second, the two of them bumped into each other. It seems Torin really has been captivated by you. Kalyan Bell. The other party actually saw through his disguise at a glance. Could his helper actually be ①-②Forced? Seeing Torin still sneaking glances furtively, Eddie instantly slipped into full drama mode. Oh my, miss, forgive me, I was rude. I didn't know you were the niece of Princess Rosina's distant uncle and also the daughter of Duke Helwin's distant cousin. Please forgive my rudeness, miss. Hearing this, Torin was frightened on the spot. With such a huge disparity in status, he could only leave in disgrace. Only then did Kalyan's eyes truly open. He had never expected dealing with Torin to be this simple. I heard that you would be helping me. The roads in Ruber are probably not easy to remember. Eddie pushed up his glasses and said that this was not difficult at all, because he was originally from Ruber. Kalyan could hardly believe his ears. Before he had time to recover from the shock, Eddie looked him up and down from head to toe. Honestly, you really are beautiful, Kalyan. No wonder he is so worried. You really are deeply sinful. As he spoke, he strode toward Kalyan, and the feeling was truly awful. Ignoring Eddie's lecherous and nauseating expression, let's skip the small talk and talk about the plan afterward. Only then did Eddie finally get to the point. I know the roads in Ruber very well. Tonight, they will kidnap you. You just have to obediently let yourself be captured, and once you reach their hideout, I will immediately signal the police. They were planning to launch a surprise raid on the murderer's lair in one fell swoop. Without a doubt, Kalyan agreed at once, because if he could enter Ruber directly, perhaps he could find his mother more quickly. As soon as the serious matters were done, Eddie immediately returned to his true nature. After graduation, would you like to come back to the academy as a teacher? That undisguised look made people instinctively uneasy. Before Kalyan could answer, Eddie suddenly lunged forward. Come work under me. I have always wanted to take in a disciple as smart and clever as you. But Kalyan had absolutely no interest in that sort of thing. He had only just taken a step back when the disgusting Eddie grabbed him. He still had one question that he insisted Kalyan answer personally. How exactly did you do it? You are obviously a man, so how can you disguise yourself as a woman so perfectly? As he spoke, his hand was extremely restless, shamelessly rubbing Kalyan's palm. Did you even put on women's underwear? Kalyan cried out in fright. Only then did he finally understand Claude's earlier warning. He had not expected this beast to really lay hands on a student. He shoved Eddie away and drew the short sword Claude had given him. I warn you, don't touch me. That kind of threat only made Eddie even more excited. We are both men, so what is there to be shy about? I'm just curious how you did it. It's not like I was trying to molest you. Cornered against the wall, Kalyan was terrified to the extreme at that moment. Stop. A familiar, low voice rang out abruptly. The next second, a gleaming sword was pressed to Eddie's neck. It turned out Claude had arrived just in time to shield him. I warned you not to lay your hands on students again. Just an hour earlier, after completing the escort mission, Claude had met up with the military. The suspect's hideout was near the clock tower, but the insider informant had not revealed the exact location. Because the suspect changed hiding spots every day, it was possible that their area of activity had already spread across the entire Ruber region. And Eddie Kurhan had also decided to help. This map was drawn by him personally. Are you talking about Eddie Kurhan from the academy? Yes, he should be meeting up with Kalyan at the library by now. Hearing this, Claude slowly lowered his head. Officer Brighton, if even a single hair on Kalyan Bell is harmed, all of you will be buried with him. Claude rushed to the library without stopping, and what he saw was exactly this scene. He was almost so furious that his lungs were about to explode. With how much you are reacting here, taking a sword strike would suit you just fine. Seeing this, Eddie backed away in fright again and again, only after hearing Claude tell him to apologize. Did he finally relax a little? Young Duke Claude, you really do not need to protect him this exaggeratedly. Kalyan is not a child, and he is about to have his coming-of-age ceremony. He is a proper man. Claude had never seen someone so shameless before. I think that tongue of yours ought to be cut out. But the hand he extended was pulled back by the person in his arms. That made Claude even more displeased. In fact, Kalyan was only worried that Claude would act impulsively. What was more, there were still many academy students in the library. If this continued, it would only damage the young Duke's reputation. Claude forcibly suppressed his anger. I am warning you one last time, Eddie Kurhan. But Eddie laughed when he heard this. Do you have the right to accuse me? Those words stabbed straight into the depths of his soul. Seeing that Claude did not react for quite a while, Eddie wisely stopped while he was ahead. After apologizing to Kalyan, he left. Faced with Kalyan's thanks, Claude turned a deaf ear. All he wanted to know was what exactly that disgusting creep had done to Kalyan. Unexpectedly, even though Claude had seen it with his own eyes, Kalyan still lied and said that nothing had happened. He did not even dare think about what might have happened if he had not arrived in time. He yanked Kalyan back and forced him to meet his eyes. I have warned you again and again to be careful, but I had no idea the contact would be the dean of discipline. It hurts. Let go of me. Let go? And then what? Who do you want to hide behind next? Those words made Kalyan freeze on the spot. When will you finally act a bit more like a man? The way you are now and these actions of yours are truly laughable. Being accused like this for no reason, Kalyan felt wronged to the extreme in that moment. I have never hidden. If you think I am laughable and hate me, then stop interfering with me. I will handle my own affairs myself. Even without your highness's help, I still lived well until today. Why exactly do you treat me like this? What exactly did I do to make you angry? Because I am not manly enough? What exactly counts as being like a man? Kalyan lost control of his emotions and shouted out all of his grievances in one breath. The next second, Claude pinned him against the bookshelf. Clearly, he had wanted to show concern for him, but when the words reached his lips, they took a complete 180-degree turn. You make me very uncomfortable. You are really an eyesore. The wretched Kalyan Bell widened his eyes, his face filled with disbelief. He said in a low voice, I know. No, you don't. I said I know. Ever since you said I was an imitation, I have known. At that moment, heavy tears spilled from his eyes. Claude sucked in a sharp breath, never having imagined that the joking words from childhood had stayed with him until now. Kalyan walked straight to Claude's side. Please forgive my rudeness, young Duke. From now on, I will do my best not to appear before you again. When he returned home, His mood had fallen to the lowest point. In order not to worry the maid Pepe, he lied and said that he was simply too tired from wearing formal clothes. And just at that moment, his stomach suddenly growled, and only then did Pepe leave in relief. Gazing at the night outside the window, Kalian's thoughts churned. Claude's words, wretched Kalian, kept him from being able to stop caring. At that moment, Ian, the prince of the enemy country, appeared. Having just accidentally seen Kalian in women's clothes, he was deeply smitten. He wanted to savor it a bit longer, but unfortunately Kalian had already changed back into men's clothing. In the past, no matter how much he begged, Kalian had refused to wear women's clothes for him, so he was very curious about what exactly the reason was this time, because this was a secret mission. Kalian did not tell him, only saying that he had something to do today. His fingers lightly brushed aside the stray hair on Ian's forehead. "What is wrong with you? Why is all your hair wet?" Kalian's touch had always been what he desired most. He bent closer as if wagging a tail, which startled Kalian badly. Ian was always doing strange and odd things. Kalian's flustered appearance made Ian burst out laughing. "I just saw that you were cold and wanted to hug you. I truly do not have the slightest impure thought, so don't worry." Kalian did not believe a single word of that nonsense. Leaving aside the fact that he was not cold at all, the rain had already stopped. The next second, Ian's hand covered his. "But it will rain again soon. It is the rainy season, so it is cold today." Knowing that Ian was trying to comfort him, although he completely could not understand what the other party was thinking, he still refused Ian's kindness because drinking soup could also warm him up. Kalian had only just risen from the bed when Ian frivolously lay down on it. Calmness was part of Kalian's charm, but at this moment it made him feel incomparably disappointed. All of a sudden, Kalian seemed to think of something. "Can you teach me how to use a knife tomorrow?" Time quickly came to the second day, and as promised, Ian taught Kalian how to use a knife. "Hold the blade downward like this. It's more advantageous for attacking. The vital points are here and here." These few sentences were far too familiar, making him think of Claude again. That little expression on his face made it obvious to anyone that he was spacing out, and Ian was instantly overwhelmed with jealousy. The next second, he lunged forward with lightning speed. Before Kalian could even react, Ian pulled him straight into his arms. Kalian's little face instantly turned bright red. "What are you doing? You scared me to death." Ian curled his lips into a wicked smile. When facing someone with a blade, if you let your guard down for even a moment, you've already lost. Kalian was so angry he gritted his teeth. "Are you trying to kill me?" "Ian, I didn't even draw my knife." In truth, what Ian cared about more was why Kalian had suddenly wanted to learn how to use a knife. As long as he stayed by his side, he would never need to draw a blade against anyone himself. Kalian tightened his grip on the knife in his hand. Claude's words surfaced in his mind once again. He just wanted to prove that he didn't need anyone's protection anymore and that he would not hide again. Taking advantage of Ian's momentary distraction, Kalian launched an attack on his own initiative. Even Ian, a war machine, thought that strike was very good. A few days later, Kalian appeared at the academy, among the bustling crowd, and heard the news that supervisor Eddie had been expelled. It must have been the young duke who made a move. He had long regarded Eddie Kirkhan as a thorn in his side. It all started back when Kirkhan went after his young attendant. Before Kalian could recover from his shock, his nemesis Torin called out to him. Ignoring the look on Torin's face that clearly showed he had something to say, Kalian turned and walked away. But Torin froze him in place with a soul-piercing question. "Do you have a younger sister or an older sister? One that other people don't know about?" Ever since seeing that woman in the library who looked so much like Kalian, Count Torin had been unable to stop thinking about her. So he completely changed his usual sharp-tongued manner. He awkwardly sought Kalian out just to ask about that young lady. That question was practically no different from asking whether he had an illegitimate child, and all Torin received in return was Kalian's indifference. All Torin received in return was Kalian's indifference. If someone else overheard such a rude question, what would they think? Just then, Claude's voice came from nearby, "Make way." As Claude came closer and closer, Kalian respectfully bowed and greeted him. But Claude was clearly still angry about what had happened that day, and left without even looking at him. A faint pain stirred in Kalian's heart. The words "detestable Kalian Bell" rang in his ears once again. The scene shifted, and Kalian had already changed into women's clothing. Because Marilyn had personally chosen the hair color, he had no way to refuse, and that excessively beautiful face even left Marilyn feeling sour with jealousy. "You look too beautiful, nothing like a man. I even suspect you're actually a woman. Is it ridiculous for me to think that?" After muttering that to herself, she opened a box on her own. It was a gift for Kalian from her. If luck was on his side, it would protect his heart. Kalian was truly grateful that Marilyn was being so thoughtful toward him. But looking pretty didn't mean he wasn't a man. As for his heart, he would protect it himself. Undoing the buttons at his chest, it revealed that he was wearing a bulletproof vest underneath. But when he arrived at the reception room, Kalian instantly lost the confidence he had just had, because Claude kept staring at him. Even Ian, the prince of the enemy nation, had come as well. The crown prince had already issued an order to kill on the spot, so this time, he had to produce a proper result. But if the criminal were killed on the spot, the hostage would be put in danger. And ①-②Forced was the hostage Claude was referring to. The one thing that was absolutely unacceptable was putting ①-②Forced in danger. ①-②Forced had never expected Claude to be thinking of him like this, especially when not long ago he had said ①-②Forced was detestable. The crown prince had clearly taken this into consideration as well, which was why Prince Ian had been invited to assist. After all, Prince Ian was known as a killing machine. And the reason he insisted on accepting help from the enemy nation was that the Belle Marquis family would arrive in the capital 2 days later. They had to resolve this matter before then. If the Marquis found out about it, ①-②Forced might face more than just confinement. Just because he was afraid ①-②Forced would be confined, he was going to let ①-②Forced fall into danger. Claude could not accept that and stormed off in anger. Seeing this, ①-②Forced also rose to take his leave because he had to act together with the young duke. Before leaving, he specifically told Ian not to show himself, or things would only become more complicated. What protected him was not His Highness the Prince, but the dagger at his waist. On the way to Ruber, ①-②Forced was so awkward his toes nearly curled into the ground. He took the initiative to speak to Claude, trying to break the silence. "Where are we going today?" But Claude seemed not to hear him at all. He kept looking out the window and said nothing. "I heard Eddie Kirkon was expelled. Without someone to guide us, we'll definitely get lost. I'll lead the way." At last, he finally pried Claude's mouth open. But the other party actually intended to lead the way personally. If he remembered correctly, it was also Claude who led the way last time before they got out of Ruber. "Don't worry, I remember it all. We've already arranged for Ruber's informant to leak your situation to them. That way, they'll have a reason to kidnap you, and after that, everything will follow naturally." After saying all that, Claude fell silent again. After hesitating again and again, he finally asked the question he had been holding in for a long time. "A few days ago, I saw a woman who looked exactly like you." ①-②Forced's heart jolted at once, and he lowered his head, trying hard to stay calm. "Haha, the capital is so big. It's not strange that there would be someone who looks like me, right? A lot of people have said they saw a woman who looks like me." Torin said it too. But Claude was obviously not so easy to fool. "I'm looking for that woman. I want to confirm something. I think you might be that woman, ①-②Forced. You must be crazy. I'm about to go crazy. It's all someone's fault." After getting out of the carriage, they wandered around the outskirts of Ruber. Along the way, the two of them stayed very close to each other. But ①-②Forced kept feeling that this was not very appropriate. Because if he were the suspect, he would never want to make an enemy of the House of Ahal. Claude, however, did not care at all, a wicked curve lifting at the corner of his lips. They were making the suspect think ①-②Forced was his lover. That would be the reason for kidnapping him. Because judging from appearances, ①-②Forced looked nothing like his own younger sister. "But Miss Selby is your highness's lover. Isn't that something everyone already knows? If Marilyn is my true lover, then you are my secret lover." ①-②Forced's gaze was suddenly drawn by a figure. That bespectacled man on the bridge wearing a top hat was clearly the doctor who used to visit his mother's business when he was little. Just as he was thinking that, Claude suddenly spoke. It turned out the time for him to withdraw had already arrived. "I'll have dessert ready and waiting for you when you come back, Miss ①-②Forced." Claude had actually called out ①-②Forced's real name, and it startled the ①-②Forced beside him badly. He carefully asked, "What ①-②Forced?" The next second, Claude leaned down. He explained that it was just a casual name he had blurted out. His warm breath fell by ①-②Forced's ear, making ①-②Forced's heart itch. "You just sit here. They'll come over to approach you very soon." As if still not quite at ease, he patted ①-②Forced on the shoulder and told him again and again to be careful. Watching Claude's retreating back, ①-②Forced fell into thought. Can he be this gentle even to someone he thinks is detestable? Is this the basic breeding of the upper nobility? Or could it be that he really suspects I'm a woman? What exactly is he trying to confirm? ①-②Forced waited alone for a long time. Finally, someone approached him, but he never would have expected that they would actually send such a small child over. "We're so hungry. Could you help us buy some bread?" But if he acted too cooperatively, it would inevitably make the suspect suspicious. So ①-②Forced handed over a gold coin. "Buy whatever you want to eat yourselves." Seeing this, the little girl suddenly became agitated. No, a bad uncle would snatch the money away. "Big sister, please help us buy a loaf of bread. Just one." The next second, ①-②Forced suddenly leaned closer. "Then hide this first, secretly. I'll go buy bread for you." But as soon as he turned his head, his expression went cold. He could not accept using such pitiful children to commit crimes. Looking at the girl leading the way ahead of him, he thought of his childhood again. When he had been about their age, he had also run all over the place looking for cheap and tasty bakeries. "You must be starving. Let's hurry." But he did not know that this very action had saved his life. ①-②Forced had not even finished buying the bread when the girl suddenly said she was no longer hungry. They wanted to go straight back. Only then did ①-②Forced notice the road behind the girl. It was a small path leading to Ruber. The suspect had definitely planted people in ambush there. Then can big sister do me a favor? Afterward, he leaned close to the girl's ear and whispered something. Then, smiling, he sent the brother and sister off. With so much bread, Kalyan left all of it at the shop, asking the landlady to hand it personally to the two children when they came back. As for himself, he took only one. After taking care of all that, he set out on the road to Ruber. Sure enough, there were already people lying in ambush along the way. Immediately after, the suspect drugged him unconscious. His handbag also fell to the ground. What, so that's all? I thought kidnapping a noble lady would be difficult. But why does he look so familiar to me? Move him first. As for why he looks familiar, we'll confirm it when we get there. Very soon, Claude arrived at the scene of the incident. As long as they followed the traces, they would be able to find the suspect's hiding place. But he simply could not wait for the people from the police bureau to arrive. He wanted to go to Kalyan's side right now. The next second, Ian, the prince of the enemy nation, appeared beside him. He was going with him. Your Highness, it would be better if you did not interfere. Kalyan has been kidnapped, and yet you want me to stand by and do nothing? This is one part of our plan. Strictly speaking, this is the Kane Empire's affair. But what Claude saw as a matter of state was, to Ian, merely Kalyan's personal matter. Those words made Claude lose focus for a moment. Dear Highness, what exactly is Kalyan? Hearing this, Ian immediately stopped in his tracks. He is one of my own, someone who will share the future with me. As gunpowder smoke filled the air, that brother and sister from before appeared. At a glance, they recognized Kalyan's bag. Hot-tempered Ian drew his sword on the spot. Speak, where did the owner of that bag go? The next second, Claude stopped him. Please put your sword away, Your Highness. They are only children. At those words, Ian suddenly laughed. If the young duke knew Kalyan was not a man, he refused to believe he could still stay this calm. It seems you don't understand. The purer something is, the more cruel it can be. Claude ignored Ian's words and strode toward the two children. Please spare us. They said that as long as we brought big sister there, they would let us go. Just as the words fell, the landlady from before also came running over. These children are innocent. Those people were especially vicious. The nearby residents didn't dare disobey them at all. I saw him head into the alley over there. The little girl trembled as she gathered her courage. That big sister told me to keep this safe, and said that if I met a handsome big brother with blue eyes, I had to give it to him. He opened Kalyan's bag. The bread inside looked especially out of place. Sure enough, when he looked up, he saw the mark Kalyan had left behind. The breadcrumbs would show them the way. Meanwhile, on a broken boat by the river. You saw it just now too, right? The young duke dotes on him so much, so this time it definitely won't be like it was with Marilyn. What about those children? Didn't they see our faces? We can't leave any survivors. Kalyan was thrown to the ground with his eyes and mouth covered, and one of the kidnappers was about to cut off his finger to send to the young duke. But the doctor beside him stopped him. She looks so familiar. I'm sure I've seen her somewhere before. Kalyan slowly opened his eyes. What came into view was a group of kidnappers standing in front of him. The nerves that had just relaxed instantly tightened again. The doctor stood beside him, observing carefully. Aside from the hair and eye color, he really looks a lot like Laura. I didn't expect her daughter to have grown this big already. After confirming this, he removed the gag from Kalyan's mouth. But what greeted them was Kalyan's anger. Why are you targeting women and children? Why would you do something so despicable? Hearing this, the doctor still kept up his mysterious act. You live in luxury every day. It doesn't seem like you're the one who should be asking that kind of question, does it? You have knives and guns in your hands. At the very least, shouldn't you be fighting people who also have weapons? You don't actually think this is justice, do you? The kidnapped men who had been stabbed instantly darkened, but Kalyan's accusations still did not stop. This is a crime. What are you going to do next? Imprisonment? Murder? The next second, he was struck with a solid slap. Look at you, talking nonsense like that. Now I can be sure. You are not Laura's daughter. It seems I mistook you for someone else. Now, they plan to cut off Kalyan's hair to threaten the young duke. Seeing this, Kalyan forcibly suppressed the fear in his heart and deliberately brought up the children who had been working for the kidnappers, hoping to stall for time. Are you really planning to kill those children who helped you? Why do you care about that? They were abandoned by their parents long ago anyway. It's because nobles like you have made it impossible for everyone to even fill their stomachs that parents abandon their own children. In other words, the reason those children ended up like this is because of you. Hearing this, Kalyan only found it ridiculous. Stop trying to excuse yourselves so self-righteously. You use children as tools for crime and silence them after you're done with them. Do you call that justice too? As soon as those words came out, the kidnapper instantly snapped. Humiliated and enraged, he grabbed Kalyan by the hair. Shut up. You should be crying and begging us to spare your life. Faced with the kidnapper's threat, Kalyan still showed no fear. The ones who should be begging for mercy aren't me, it's you. The kidnapper was so angry he couldn't speak for a moment, and with a snip he cut off half of Kalyan's hair. He did not understand why all these nobles were so arrogant, refusing to let go of their dignity even when death was right in front of them. But once blood was spilled, everything would be different. After all, there had already been no fewer than 12 nobles who died at their hands. Killing Kalyan would make him the 13th. Every one of them deserved it. They treated us like slaves, and they would kill commoners for no reason. You probably don't know what a life worse than an ant is like. But what they didn't know was, those children they had used and then abandoned had already been placed under surveillance. Because he had already anticipated that the kidnappers would do exactly this. Kalyan, having untied the ropes himself, slowly stood up. He told the kidnappers that those children had already been taken over by the Imperial Guards. I'm very curious how you plan to shut them up. What awaits you is being personally arrested by the nobles you hate most. And I'm not the young duke's lover. I am Kalyan Bell, the second son of House Bell, and also a child they are prepared to abandon. If you fire now, you'll expose your position. You people are supposed to be planning great things, so surely you wouldn't choose such a pointless way to die, would you? But the kidnappers did not believe that a marquis would abandon his own son. As long as they held Kalyan hostage, they would definitely be able to escape. However, Kalyan's next words threw them into total panic. I told you already, I'm a discarded child. The nobles will shoot me first and then wipe all of you out, which is why I appeared here. As he spoke, he proudly scattered the breadcrumbs in his hand. Only then did the kidnappers suddenly realize it. This brat had actually left marks behind without anyone noticing. The kidnappers, who had been completely toyed with, decided on the spot to kill him. To buy time and hold out until the young duke arrived, Kalyan deliberately put on the appearance of someone who wanted to at least understand before dying. He asked the kidnappers why exactly they were doing this, and the answer turned out to be simply that they had not had enough to eat, something he had never expected no matter what. The ornaments you're wearing are enough to feed my family for several months. But now, gemstones and money no longer mean anything. If we're exposed here, everything will be over. One of the kidnappers lost control of his emotions and pointed a gun at him. The doctor still wanted to stop him, but it was already too late. That kidnapper had already pulled the trigger. And the next second, Kalyan fell into a pool of blood. Just as Kalyan had said, the gunshot quickly exposed the kidnapper's location. The Imperial Guards rushed over with lightning speed. If this continued, the kidnappers would be completely wiped out. In order not to expose the mastermind behind the scenes, the doctor immediately thought of a way. He raised his sword and stabbed his own arm. He disguised himself as someone who had also been taken hostage. He begged the guards to spare his life. Just then, a stern voice fell from above. Where's the young lady? He looked up and met the sharp gazes of the young duke and the prince of the enemy nation. The next second, the dark muzzle of a gun was already pressed against his head. Answer, where's the young lady? At this moment, the young duke's face was frighteningly dark. The doctor tremblingly raised his hand and pointed to a door. Inside. She's already dead. Hearing this, Claude immediately felt as if the sky had collapsed. The image of Kalyan lying all alone in a pool of blood flooded his mind, and he seemed nailed to the spot, unable to move for a long time. At this moment, Ian behind him stepped forward. Compared to Claude, he was much calmer. Young Duke, don't believe him. They're in this together. The exposed doctor dropped to his knees on the spot, lying that he had been called here by the kidnappers. They said there was a patient here, and then I saw a woman dead, so I ran for my life. To Claude, these words were undoubtedly another heavy blow. He could not imagine Kalyan leaving him like this. So, ignoring Ian's shout, he strode toward the broken boat. He had to confirm personally whether the doctor's words were true or not. But the moment he pushed open the door, he froze completely. Kalyan lay motionless in the cold pool of blood. At that instant, his mind went completely blank. After coming back to his senses, he lunged toward the person on the ground as if sprinting 800 meters. Fortunately, his Kalyan was not dead yet. After confirming this, light finally returned to Claude's eyes. He carefully helped Kalyan up from the ground. Kalyan also opened his eyes at the same moment and called out, "Your Highness, young Duke." Seeing this, Claude's eyes instantly reddened, and he hurriedly asked whether Kalyan was hurt. It turned out that at the critical moment, Kalyan had stabbed the kidnapper beside him. Because it had not hit a vital spot, that person should still be alive. In other words, Kalyan had captured a kidnapper alive. But now, none of that was the most important thing. The most important thing was that his Kalyan was safe. At this moment, a guard came to report that the ship was sinking. The last person who escaped had punched a hole through the bottom of the boat. Claude asked Kalyan in a low voice whether he could still walk. Then Ian's firm voice rang out from behind. "I'll carry her. She needs a doctor right now." "I can handle it, young Duke. Let's go home." Just like that, Ian took Kalyan from the young Duke's hands. But what should have been a beautiful scene looked especially glaring in Claude's eyes. He hated that the person was Ian and not himself. At this moment, the Imperial Guards arrived. Claude's face was terrifyingly dark as he ordered them to pursue the living, arrest the witness, that doctor, take the man on the ground too, and find out who owns this boat. After giving all these orders, he also left the scene. Little did he know that his own home was about to be stolen from under him. The prince of the enemy nation brought the injured Kellyanne back home. He thoughtfully treated the wounds on her face, and just as he was about to deal with Kellyanne's other injuries, he was mercilessly refused. Pepe can do it. Hearing this, Ian smiled teasingly and said that his skills should be better than those of her maid. After all, this sort of thing had long since become commonplace for him. Why exactly did you do something so dangerous? Hearing this question, Kellyanne lowered her eyes. Because I could help. After learning this, Ian deliberately increased the pressure in his hands. This idiot actually put her life in danger for a reason like that. What's more, Kellyanne's actions were far too eye-catching. Even if he did not want to see them, he would still know. The longer he looked, the more things he would discover. Kellyanne had not yet had time to think through what exactly would be discovered before Ian's next shocking statement startled her. Actually, I quite like that side of you, but I don't want you to end up in danger because of it. Hearing this, Kellyanne instantly said in annoyance, Ian, please stop joking about liking me. Before she had even finished speaking, Ian suddenly interrupted with a single, Kalia. Do you still think I'm joking now? After questioning her, he switched back to his professional fake smile and suddenly leaned in close. A kiss, completely without warning, landed on Kellyanne's face. That sudden closeness instantly made her break out in goosebumps all over. Ian even grandly called it punishment for being seductive. Kellyanne suddenly felt overwhelmed. Who exactly had she seduced? But Ian did not give an answer, and instead simply got up and left. Pepe, who had been fidgeting anxiously outside the door, had already been waiting for a long time. Go help your master change clothes. If there are any serious wounds on her body, tell me. Despite Ian looking completely calm on the surface, Claude's words, my Kellyanne, kept bothering him. Could it be that his rival had already learned Kalia's secret? While he was thinking this, the young duke appeared in front of him. Behind him stood a guard dressed in gear clothing. You placed a suspicious person by Kellyanne's side. Prince, this is Kane, not Gear. You are a guest here, yet you still planted a spy. It seems you have forgotten your own status. Faced with this, Ian was not flustered in the slightest. Instead, he smiled meaningfully. That person was not there to monitor Kellyanne, but was sent by my brother to monitor me. My apologies. But such an explanation was not convincing, and he understood that it was only natural for the young duke not to believe it. Although the young duke did not seem to intend to pursue the matter for the moment, that did not mean he himself would not pursue it. You, come outside with me. At this moment, Kellyanne in the room was sweating from the pain. As Ian had said, the maid's skill really did not compare to his. By now, Pepe was so anxious she was almost crying, but Kellyanne said it was not painful enough to kill her, so Pepe should continue. Just as expected, this time Kellyanne was still in agonizing pain. While Pepe was fumbling about in a panic, the young duke arrived. A single, let me see, successfully startled both master and servant. Seriously, how does this person walk without making any sound at all? Afterward, Claude took over the task from Pepe. He wanted to see for himself how badly Kellyanne was hurt. After confirming that her arm was fine, he also wanted to check whether her ribs were cracked. Kellyanne immediately crossed both arms in front of her chest, putting on an attitude of absolute refusal. Claude immediately threw a small fit. You're obviously rejecting me right now, haha. Later I'll have Pepe bandage me too. Seeing this, Claude did not force the matter and only told her to lie down obediently and get some proper rest. Meanwhile, Kellyanne was still wondering why the young duke had suddenly come to visit. Could it be that he still suspected she was the woman Ruber had encountered by chance? In order to cut off unnecessary trouble, she gathered her courage and lied to Claude. Your Highness, young duke, I am not the woman you are looking for. For a moment, the room grew so quiet that only the pattering sound of rain remained. Why bring this up all of a sudden? Weren't you here to confirm it? Claude reached out and gently touched Kellyanne's cheek, and the atmosphere suddenly turned a little ambiguous. Well, as for that, whether you are that woman or not no longer matters. After almost losing Kellyanne forever, the young duke finally understood his own awkward feelings. Now, whether Kellyanne was male or female no longer mattered, because those stupid police had believed the rumors too easily. The doctor they had worked so hard to catch had actually escaped. Now Claude needed a witness, and that witness was Kellyanne. But considering Kellyanne's current physical condition, he had no intention of doing that. Besides, he himself also remembered what that doctor looked like. After all that talking, he still had not explained why he had come here. Watching him keep flipping through a book, Kellyanne came to a rather unreliable conclusion. Could it be that you came here to read? Claude, wearing a speechless expression, became even more speechless. At the mention of a witness, Kellyanne remembered something. Those two children who had helped deliver his bag to the young duke needed a place to stay. Although he wanted to take them in, he did not have the authority to hire people. So he wanted to ask the young duke to take them in. Compared to himself, they were more solid witnesses. The kidnappers would soon target those two children, since those villains had said they would kill them, that bunch of bastards. They not only hurt Miss Selby, the young duke's fiancée, but also harmed many innocent women. So it was for them that you got involved in this? Of course, because I could help. But her voice grew softer and softer as she said this, because she also had another selfish motive, to enter the Ruber region, where she might be able to find her mother. Seeing that the young duke still showed no sign of agreeing, Kalyan suddenly thought of Marilyn. For your fiancé, haven't you always wanted to catch those villains? But before she could finish, she was interrupted by a sudden burst of laughter. What's so funny? I wasn't joking. Hearing this, the corners of Claude's lips curled into a wicked arc. Oh, why don't you guess what's so funny? First of all, Marilyn and I are not engaged. Take a guess, am I joking with you? Or trying to prove that I've gone mad? Actually, at some point without him realizing, all of his attention had already fallen entirely on Kellyan. For all this time, no matter where Claude went, he was always treated like the moon surrounded by stars. For the sake of their families, people would even trample their own self-respect. He had long since grown tired of that kind of interaction. One day, Princess Rosina asked him a question like this. Do you think the Empire's young duke could ever make a friend? Claude fell silent. Seeing this, Rosina continued, I gave up on that long ago. Even Jilin, whom you consider a friend, will one day bow his head before you too. At that moment, he finally realized that the princess was right. No one would ever truly treat him sincerely. That was a flaw that came attached to the power he possessed. But just when he was beginning to get used to that, Kellyan appeared, the dignified second son of the Bell family. Yet the sound of gunfire scared him out of his wits. Kellyan appeared before him as Jilin's younger brother. Unlike other nobles, Kellyan did not hide his feelings, as though he were a foreigner within the empire. The first time he felt such a sharp gaze, it truly made him happy. But when he learned that Kellyan's awkward gaze would fall on him and him alone, he somehow felt displeased. Willfulness, irritation, worry, confusion, these emotions should never have had anything to do with him. But it was only after he had been completely swallowed by these feelings that he understood. From the very first moment he saw Kellyan, it had already been destined that he would fall deeply into it and be unable to escape. Your Highness, young Duke, you make me very afraid. Kellyan's sudden words pulled his thoughts back to reality. Luckily, it's not because you think I'm easy to bully. Don't you dislike me? Or rather, you dislike me to the extreme. But why exactly? I don't dislike you. What? I don't dislike you, Kellyan. Really? That beautiful face made Kellyan think for an instant that she was hallucinating. Not until the young Duke turned and left did her little heart continue pounding wildly. That strange feeling once again filled her entire chest, and the hand the young Duke had pulled now felt unbearably hot. She could only repeat to herself again and again in her heart, wake up a little, hurry and wake up. Kalia had nearly been shot to death by the kidnappers. But not only did her mother show no concern, she even kicked her while she was down and said she would punish her. Kellyan was met with the arrival of his mother and older brother. Unexpectedly, however, what awaited her was such an outcome. This made her feel unbearably sad. Fortunately, her brother Jilin was as gentle as ever and gave Kellyan a big hug. No matter what, as long as my little sister is safe, that's all that matters. The next second, Jilin's expression suddenly changed. I heard that while I was away from the capital, a few pests kept making trouble for you. Who those pests were, I won't say. Now that I'm here, no one gets to bully you anymore. You've worked hard, Leah, for Kellyan. Her brother was practically an angel descending from heaven. In an instant, he easily took care of the troublesome Ian. Not only that, within just 1 week of arriving in the capital, Jilin had conquered the entire capital's social circle in one stroke. Princess Rosina, Von Wiz's man, the heir to House Bell favored by the Emperor, not only were these titles playing a role, Jilin himself was indeed socially adept and excellent in every respect. Just when Kellyan was inwardly cheering "Long live Big Brother," a huge crowd had already quietly surrounded him. Oh my, it's really Kellyan. You really do look so much like young Marquis Jilin. Please help me pass a message to young Marquis Jilin. This sudden turn of events shocked him so much that he froze on the spot. After snapping back to his senses, he turned and ran. If you have business with my brother, then just go find him directly. He had originally thought that once his brother returned, no one would pay attention to him anymore. Who would have thought that now those people all wanted to use him to get close to his brother? In order to escape those people's encirclement, Kellyan ran into a place he had never been before. The intense running pulled at the wounds on his body, and waves of stinging pain followed. Only after quite a while did he notice the furnishings in the room. He had no idea there was actually a place like this in the academy. A faint scent of lavender floated in the air. Still focused only on observing his surroundings, he thought he would rest a little before leaving. But the overly firm sensation beneath him made his eyes widen abruptly. A sudden noise rang out, scaring Kellyan out of his wits. By sheer accident, he had stumbled into Claude's territory. The next second, a pig-slaughtering scream suddenly rang out. Just as he was about to get up, a hand firmly wrapped around his waist. Don't be so loud. The noise is making my head buzz. You were sleeping? I was sleeping in my own private space. Is there a problem with that? Hearing this, Kalyan immediately said that he had known nothing, and if he had known, he definitely would not have barged in so casually. Now there was still one problem. Claude's hand around him had not loosened yet. Please let go of me first. I'll go sit in another chair. Unexpectedly, after hearing this, Claude not only did not let go, but instead tightened his hold around Kalyan even more. There aren't any other chairs here. Stay here for now and go out after it gets quiet outside. The feeling was unfamiliar and awkward, yet not unpleasant. The tiny fragments Kalyan had desperately tried to erase also began to grow wildly at this moment without warning. He quietly lowered his head and tried to change the subject. There's the scent of lavender here. There's no smell on you at all. I ran around all day today. If you can't even smell my sweat, then you should really go see a doctor. Claude smiled brightly, convinced that there truly was no sweaty smell on Kalyan. Seeing Kalyan reveal an expression that said, "Do you think I'd believe that?" He joked with a smile. Maybe your sense of smell is the one with the problem. Unexpectedly, in the next second, Kalyan suddenly sprawled right onto him. Like a little puppy, he twitched his nose, sniffing here and there. Claude was completely stunned by this whole string of actions. But Kalyan acted as if nothing was wrong and went on saying that the young duke smelled like lavender. My nose is perfectly fine. It's the young duke's sense of smell that has a problem. The young duke had already been fond of Kalyan to begin with. But now, that person had flopped onto him so defenselessly. And like a little puppy, he twitched his nose, sniffing east and west, all just to confirm the lavender scent on him. At that moment, he only felt that his brain had stopped working. Coming back to his senses, he immediately sat up. Whatever you say, then. Kalyan was startled by the young duke's sudden movement as he sat up. Just then, it also became quiet outside. To hide his embarrassment, he decided to leave this troublesome place first. Before leaving, he hesitated and asked the question in his heart. But, young Duke Claude, about what happened on the ship that day, why didn't you ask about it anymore? Claude sat upright and proper. Kalyan, I stepped in to protect you. Everything else has nothing to do with me. The impact those words had on Kalyan was no less than that sudden closeness just now. At this moment, he was simply unbearably shy. The only response Claude got was a thunderous sound of the door slamming shut. But in truth, Claude was no different. Kalyan was really driving him crazy. At the same time, Kalyan's heart was also pounding nonstop. A bold guess arose spontaneously. Could it be that the young duke discovered I'm a woman? Or is it that he likes me even as a man? Just as he was still wavering between the two possibilities, the voice of Ian, the prince of the enemy nation, suddenly sounded from behind him. So badly hurt you can hardly even walk, yet you're still running around everywhere like a cute little puppy. Unlike Claude, Ian had always liked him openly and without concealment. I missed you very much, but some villain just wouldn't give me a chance. I took a risk to come see you. And the villain he was referring to was none other than Kalyan's brother, Jilin. At that moment, he was holding people accountable for his younger brother's injury. So in other words, to catch the criminal who attacked the noble lady, ①-②Forced recommended my younger brother, and then all of you proposed having my younger brother disguise himself as a woman. Is that what you mean? The officers were sweating profusely under the questioning. But Ian, who had disappeared along with Kalyan, was also implicated in the matter. It turned out that 7 people had died that day, but the bullets in the bodies were not from their country. Although the dead were all criminals, the police bureau still had to investigate that person's identity. But Jilin, standing to the side, spoke up to stop them. He is a guest of the royal family. There is no need for you to continue the investigation. Right now, he only cared about where ①-②Forced was. Just as the officers were caught in a dilemma, Claude, who suddenly appeared, answered that question. ①-②Forced was dismissed. The entire capital is in an uproar because of you. Can Princess Rosina still be happy? I heard that there are more than just 1 or 2 people eyeing the princess's fiancé. You must be joking. I only like Rosina. But did something happen? You look very anxious. That's not like your style at all. Hearing this, Claude finally stated the purpose of his visit. Not long ago, I saw a woman who looked exactly like Kalyan. Hearing this, Jilin was flustered for a moment. But very quickly, he regained his composure. There's actually a woman whose looks can rival my Kalyan's? I'm not joking, Jilin. I want to find her. Hearing this, Jilin was afraid of revealing a flaw, so he had no intention of staying any longer. You must have seen wrong. But Claude had no intention of letting him off. Do you really think so? Sensing the hostility in the visitor, Jilin finally put away his smiling attitude. I don't know what kind of answer you want to get from me. You should leave. I made plans to have a meal with Rosina. Claude could tell at a glance that Rosina was just an excuse. In his eyes, Jilin was still very bad at lying, no matter where Kalyan was. Prince Ian could always find him immediately. His liking for Kalyan was passionate and completely open. Kalyan knew this too, yet was not good at dealing with it. But she would soon be freed from it, because Ian was about to return to his country. Although he did not want to go back, there was no longer any reason to keep delaying. As soon as Jilin's engagement ceremony was over, he would have to leave immediately. Before that, he wanted to give Kalyan a gift. Whatever she wanted was fine. In fact, she understood all of what Ian meant. But she could not give him a response. Seeing this, Ian did not make things difficult for her and instead changed to another proposal. He could help Kalyan enter Ruber because he knew that this was what Lian wanted most. I'll keep watch for you. You go find whatever it is you want to find. Hearing this, Kalyan instantly lost his composure. How do you know? Did my brother say something? At that moment, Ian gently touched her cheek. Ever since I came here, my eyes have only been on you. If I keep watching you, I'll come to know many unexpected things. Kalyan, I told you before, it was love at first sight for me. At the critical moment, a rustling sound entered their ears, and Ian immediately raised his eyes in alert. Sure enough, he saw Claude, who had come looking for them. Unexpectedly, he did not step forward to stop them. Instead, he turned around and left in an unusual manner. Kalyan turned back along Ian's line of sight, but Ian grabbed her and turned her back. A rat came by. It's probably already gone back to its rat hole. All right, tell me, how should I help you? Although Ian's proposal was very tempting, Kalyan still refused. Under the pretense that he had been away too long and therefore wanted to give a gift. It was only because he was afraid Kalyan would forget him. That was what he truly wanted to express. But Kalyan truly could not respond to this feeling. So she pulled her hand back and quickly fled the scene. Seeing this, Ian had no intention of giving up either. He planned to speed things up. At the Capitol Police Bureau 10 days later, it was only after the interrogation that they realized this was not something the police bureau could handle alone. The kidnappers had all acted under the orders of the man calling himself a doctor, but there was someone else behind him. And kidnapping was not their real purpose. Their true purpose was to raise funds. Because of this, Kalyan guessed that her mother might have been threatened. Perhaps her situation was even more dangerous than imagined. The scene shifted, and he soaked himself in the water again. Ruber's security must surely be very tight lately. If he wanted to go find his mother, I'm afraid it would be even more hopelessly far off. Did Mother know that the man calling himself a doctor was dangerous? A figure had already quietly approached. I was wondering who it was. So it was you, Kalyan. Once again, he met Claude in this manner. Having fun playing in the water? Kalyan had not expected the young duke to come, and in fright he hurriedly covered his chest tightly. Claude once again undid his buttons, as if he were going to swim with her. After leaving Kosovo, this is the first time. I haven't gone swimming in a long time, so I'll get in too. Hearing this, Kalyan felt as if struck by lightning. Weren't you hunting? I was hunting, but lately a wild beast keeps appearing in my hunting grounds. After his mind raced for 2 seconds, the wild beast you're talking about, could it be me? Think whatever you want. Before the words had even fully fallen, he unexpectedly fastened his buttons again. Kalyan was somewhat puzzled. Aren't you coming in anymore? Claude smiled. So you really were looking forward to swimming with me? Kalyan hurriedly denied it. Claude had come hunting together with the prince. He just did not want other people to see Kalyan looking like this right now. Wait until I've gone far enough away and can't see you anymore before you come out. Also, you'd better not swim any farther in. The water over there is already deeper than your height. This depth is very easy for me. Her cute appearance made Claude laugh speechlessly. Is that so? You're not a child anymore, huh? This was the first time he had ever seen such a bright smile, so beautiful that it was almost impossible to look away. One false sweetness had remained impossible for him to forget. But for her, her true self had become falsehood in other people's eyes. A life this false was truly terrible. The prince of the enemy nation confessed to Kalyan once again, and Claude, who had come looking for him, happened to witness it head-on. The current him still could not be as free and easy as Ian, but he felt that Kalyan, as a man, was also unbearably adorable. That too was an undeniable fact. Even he himself found that frightening. The experienced prince saw it at a glance. That was love. Unexpectedly, the dignified young duke had finally reached this day as well. It was also time for him to have a taste of torment. That terrible feeling that made people unable to extricate themselves. At the royal banquet a few days later, the news that the young duke had brought the criminal who tried to harm his fiancée to justice became the focus of everyone's discussion. For a time, Marilyn became the object of everyone's envy. This greatly satisfied her vanity. But the appearance of one person still made her frown involuntarily. That person was Kalyan. It was said that he had rendered great merit in this suppression operation. At this moment, the Empire's 3 most handsome men appeared. They immediately attracted everyone's attention. Claude began searching for Kalyan's figure at once. Marilyn sharply caught this detail. The atmosphere among the 3 immediately became strange. The scene shifted, and Kalyan ran to the back garden. Accompanying the Marchioness to the event made her feel very tired. After Jilin's engagement ceremony is over, you should quietly return to Kosovo. Today, take a good look at the other nobles. If you are confident you can blend in with them, I will give the choice to you. But if I decide to become a noble, then I can only disguise myself as a man for the rest of my life, right? And besides, why does Mother have to give me this choice in the first place? A man's voice called out to her. Kalyan, long time no see. As soon as she looked up, she met the young count's vicious glare. Seeing this, Kalyan turned and ran. Ever since he happened to run into him in the library while dressed as a woman last time, this person had been haunting him ever since. You were the woman in the library that day, weren't you? I already heard about it. What's it to you? And yet you still called me a rude fellow. Clearly, it was the young count who asked the rude question first. You're nothing more than an imitation of young Marquis Jilin. The young count was as rude as ever. Whether that woman was me or not, is it really that important? Could it be that you were captivated by me dressed as a man in women's clothing? His thoughts were exposed on the spot, and the young count instantly blushed red with embarrassment. If you really want to compete with me, then challenge me to a duel fair and square. Pulling this every time is annoying for me too. But the moment he turned his head, he ran straight into a wall of a person. Unexpectedly, the one who came was young Duke Claude. Are you playing hide and seek with the young count? What hide and seek? We were just chatting. What exactly were you chatting about? To the point of talking about a duel? Go on, young count. The young count's heart trembled in fear at Claude's sudden questioning. I just wanted him to apologize for slandering me. But before Claude could speak, another authoritative voice questioned him first. I'd quite like to hear exactly how my younger brother slandered you. So the brother-protecting maniac had appeared on the spot. How exactly did my younger brother slander you? Let's hear it. If it's reasonable, I'll make him apologize. The powerful aura shocked the young count into repeatedly stepping back, and Kalyan quietly moved his feet when he saw this. Wanting to take the opportunity to slip away, because he knew that his brother would definitely help him settle things. But his little scheme did not escape Claude's eyes. He had only just turned around when that man stopped him. Everything started because of you. Where do you think you're running off to? Kalyan, if I stay here, a great battle will definitely break out, right? Wouldn't it be better for me to stay by the Marchioness's side? Just as the words fell, Jilin also noticed the commotion here. I think that would be better. Only if I leave can my brother let loose with his anger. Your skin is getting thicker and thicker, Kalyan. The ambiguous interaction between the two made Jilin very displeased. His younger sister's bad peach blossoms really never seemed to end. Lien, go inside first. Hearing this, Lien was overjoyed and ran off with quick little steps without even looking back. Jilin, with a splitting headache, first sent the young count away, because there was something more important he needed to confirm. You suddenly disappeared in the middle of our conversation. Was it because of Kalyan? How could that be? We just happened to run into each other. If you say it was by chance, then that's a bit too much of a coincidence, isn't it? What exactly are you trying to say? Being overprotective actually isn't a good thing, Jilin. Let's go back. Jilin, the one who is truly overprotective is you. Hearing this, Claude stopped walking on the spot, because in his heart, he actually knew very clearly that the one who had always been unable to let go of Kalyan was in fact himself. A marriage proposal, a marriage proposal. The prince of the enemy nation has proposed marriage to the Belle Marquis household. In order to return to his country with peace of mind, Ian persuaded Kalyan to go ask the Marquis for her hand in marriage. He had long since learned Kalyan's true identity from Jilin. Seeing that Gelda looked troubled, Ian took the initiative to make a concession. 1 year from now, please hold her coming-of-age ball. Once she returns to being a woman, I wish to become engaged to her. Hearing this, the Marchioness instantly felt as though the sky were collapsing. Her trembling voice reminded him that Kalyan only wanted to live quietly. Since the royal family wants to make a deal with Gyr, then rather than this, why not simply choose one of the princesses? Her reasonable proposal was mercilessly rejected by Ian. Kalia alone is enough for me, madam. But Kalyan had always lived as a man, and the Marquis said he would first have to ask for his opinion. Seeing this, Ian swore with full confidence that he would think of every possible way to make him agree. Then I'll take it that you two have already agreed. But before that, the Emperor wanted to see Ian. It concerned the Gyr noble who possessed the neutral territory. After this matter is over, we can discuss the marriage between your daughter and me again. Jilin, who had been silent the whole time, finally exploded at this moment. You no longer need to inquire about the owner of the neutral territory, father. Prince Ian before your eyes is the owner of that neutral territory. It turned out that just yesterday, Claude's father, Grand Duke Hall, had arrived in the capital. He had also brought with him an enormous diamond of extremely high purity. And this diamond had come precisely from the diamond mine in the neutral territory, something the Gyr royal family was particularly covetous of. That was why they wanted to find out who the owner of the neutral territory was, and Grand Duke Hall had even encountered an assassination attempt on the way here. He suspected that it was most likely done by people from Gyr. But within the empire as well, there were likewise many forces that wanted his life. In order to better guarantee the Grand Duke's safety, the Emperor kept him in the imperial palace. Jilin came out of the reception room with a stern face. Although he had long known that Ian's intentions toward his younger sister were impure, Kalia was still young. What's more, when he told Ian the truth, it was not so that Ian could use it to propose marriage. In fact, Ian also understood that Jilin had confessed everything to him only to make himself feel a little better. Because Jilin himself also bore part of the responsibility for trapping Kalyan in the prison of a man's life. Jilin did not deny this. In order to atone, He wanted to give his younger sister freedom, to help her go where she wanted to go, and live the life she wanted to live. But once she married into the Gear royal family, though it sounded glorious, the moment Kalia returned to being a woman, her freedom would be taken away. If you do this, you'll only make Lia even more troubled. But at least her life can still be preserved. You're not naive enough to think the Marchioness would let her go, are you? If you really think that, then I'll be deeply disappointed in you, Jilin. And I will work hard to make sure she has enough freedom by my side. You may think I'm arbitrary, but this is how I love her. Jilin felt that he had truly gone completely mad. But he did not know that there was actually someone even crazier than Ian, and that person was close at hand. That person was young Duke Claude. Today was the day of Jilin's engagement ceremony. Yet Kallian, his younger brother, was told he was not allowed to attend. So he hid himself alone in the library. From his coat, he took out the note given to him by that glasses-wearing man who claimed to be a doctor. It was passed on to him by someone else. Laura has a long-lost daughter. In other words, the illegitimate daughter of Marquis Bell. Shall we arrange for them to meet? But recently, the Ruba region had been under strict security, and his brother's engagement banquet would not end until a week later. He planned to wait until then before entering Ruber to look for his mother. So this is where you are, Kallian. Claude, who was supposed to be attending the engagement ceremony, had unexpectedly appeared here as well. It turned out that he had spotted Kallian on his way into the palace. Why aren't you at the engagement ceremony? What are you doing here? I'm feeling a little unwell. If you're unwell, you should see a doctor. Then why come to the library? It's not serious enough for a doctor yet. Seeing Kallian's cheeks slightly flushed, Claude raised his hand worriedly and gently placed it on his forehead. Are you really feeling sick? Your face is red, and you seem a little feverish too. Kallian refused to go to the hospital and also refused to enter the palace. That awkward and guilty look of his made Claude realize at once that something was wrong. All right then, I guess I have no reason to go either. And just like that, he openly leaned back on the sofa and stayed put. Compared with a boring engagement ceremony, staying here with you makes me happier. How can you skip it? My brother will definitely be hurt. There are so many people there that no one would notice if I were missing. At times like this, Claude was like a willful child, and anyone who did not know him might truly think he was a completely irresponsible person. My father was injured, so I gave it serious thought. If one day I become the Duke, what should be the first thing I do? The moment those words fell, he lifted his eyes to Kallian. I must first gather people who can be useful to me, keep those I trust by my side, and then strengthen the territory. It turned out that back in Kosovo, Claude had already suggested that Kallian go to the Ahal ducal house to serve as steward. But Kallian could never understand why the young Duke would choose him, when he was clearly nothing more than his brother's shadow. Will you refuse again this time? Unexpectedly, this time too, he was still rejected. Because he had something he wanted to do himself. He wanted to become a teacher and educate children. But there are children in the ducal household who also need to be taught. Wasn't that what you asked me for? It turned out that Kallian had previously asked the young Duke to take in 2 children from Ruber. After asking me to take them in, you never once went to see them. Hearing this, Kallian was first incredulous, then overjoyed. Claude really was a good person. Something he had only mentioned casually, Claude had actually done. Just as he wanted to say more, an uninvited guest barged in. Miss, what brings you here? I heard that young Duke Claude was here, so I came to find him. Hearing the commotion, Claude immediately pulled Kallian into his arms protectively. This is so annoying. Stay like this for a while first. Do you think this will keep us from being discovered? At least they won't discover you. If Marilyn believes I'm dating someone else, maybe she won't be so interested in me anymore. In a moment, I'll pull you into my arms, so don't be startled. Just like that, Kallian was held tightly in his embrace. Because the librarian and Marilyn had already come close, Claude glared irritably at the newcomer. Can't you see I'm busy? To anyone who did not know the truth, this clearly looked like a secret tryst with a lover. Sure enough, Marilyn turned around and left on the spot in anger. Bearing the title of Claude's fiancée, she could not endure such humiliation at all, yet being of lower status, she did not dare make a scene then and there. Kallian let out a sigh of relief, but a trace of guilt rose in his heart. It would have been enough just to let her see you with someone else. Why did you have to treat Miss Selby like that? There was no need to hurt her. Are you worried that Marilyn was hurt? Of course, because she likes you. Now please move aside and hurry to the engagement ceremony. Who would have thought that in the next second, his chin would be seized, forcing him to meet Claude's gaze. Then what about me? Who is the person I like? The best brother was getting engaged. Yet the younger brother was not even allowed to attend. So it turned out that all of this had been arranged by the Marchioness. In order to keep the 2 brothers from having regrets, the young Duke brought Kallian to a hidden room. From here, he could not only watch the engagement ceremony freely, but also avoid being disturbed by irrelevant people. Can I really stay here? As long as I am there is no place you cannot go. Those words were practically a veiled confession, making Kallian's heart pound wildly. Afterward, Claude went to the ceremony hall. I prepared an engagement gift for you. Look up. Jilin lifted his eyes in confusion. In the next second, He saw Lien waving at him with a smile, and Jilin smiled in satisfaction in return. It was the best gift he had received today. Time quickly passed into the evening. Marilyn began looking for Claude again. She wanted to apologize for what had happened during the day. For a noble of the young duke's exalted status, having 1 or 2 secret lovers was actually quite common. She had thought Claude would be different, but to her surprise, he was no different from other men. Just then, fireworks burst across the night sky. When she turned around, her pupils suddenly contracted. Kalyan, who had disappeared all day, was actually right here. Thinking back to what she had seen earlier, the person in Claude's arms had also had blonde hair. At that moment, she finally realized it. She had been deceived by the two of them working together. The scene shifted, and Claude brought Kalyan something to eat. The palace chefs are really good. It's completely different from the food at my house. That's because your family chef isn't very skilled. But the stew and olive bread are exceptionally well made. Seeing sauce at the corner of Kalyan's mouth, Claude felt the urge to wipe it away for him, but reason told him he could not do that. So he stood up, preparing to get Kalyan something to drink. For a moment, a huge question mark popped up in Kalyan's mind. Suddenly, he noticed something. Claude had said this was a place he often came to as a child. Then this wooden horse must have belonged to him too. The image of little Claude holding the wooden horse with a proud and stubborn expression surfaced in his mind. That look, honestly, was kind of cute. Just then, with a creak, the door opened. He had thought Claude was back with the drinks, but when he turned his head, he was met by Marilyn's dark and gloomy face. So it really was you. What exactly are you doing here? At the same time, Claude was walking back with red wine in hand. But Ian stopped him at the staircase. He had come to look for Kalyan. It turned out that the emperor had detained him, and they had been talking until now, because half of that neutral region buried with diamonds belonged to him. The emperor said he was willing to sign a peace treaty and hand over the management rights to him. At that point, he suddenly realized that he had been led in circles. The real purpose of his visit had clearly been to find Kalyan. I'm asking you, where is Kalyan? I don't know. Go find him yourself. At that moment, Kalyan's voice came from upstairs. Please calm down first, miss. Immediately after that came Marilyn's angry shout. Then prove it to me. In the next second, the two of them dashed toward the second floor. The person who was with the young duke in the library was you, wasn't it? Exposed, Kalyan's eyes widened at once. He guiltily looked away and said he had been here the whole time, but sharp-eyed Marilyn saw at once that he was lying. She had already found it strange before. No matter how pretty he was, a man was still a man in the end. It should be said that ever since Kalyan appeared, everything had become strange. A face this beautiful, even if someone said he was a girl, she would believe it. I don't think anything is strange. Please calm down first. Miss, then prove it to me. Out of instinct, Kalyan stepped backward in fear. But in the next second, his collar was seized, and Marilyn clearly had no intention of letting him off so easily. Then prove it to me. Prove how foolish my misunderstanding is. With a click, the button at his chest fell to the floor. Because Kalyan resisted, the two of them fell together onto the bed behind them. I know what you've misunderstood, but please rest assured, the kind of thing you're worried about will not happen. I promise. Marilyn did not respond to that promise and only coolly told him to let go of her first. Realizing the impropriety, Kalyan hurriedly stood up in a panic. I didn't mean to. And yet he received a solid slap across the face. You are far too rude. How dare you treat a lady like that? At last, Marilyn learned Kalyan's secret. But as long as she was still Kalyan Bell, she could only live her whole life as a man. And as if still uneasy, Marilyn gave another warning. You are a man now. Don't be too greedy. Then she saw Claude standing outside the door at some point. What is going on here? His fiancée was pinned beneath the person he loved. And the person he loved had instead been slapped by his fiancée because of it. When the man pushed open the door and saw the scene, only one thought remained in his mind. What is going on? It was I who made Kalyan misunderstand. Don't be so harsh on him. Claude, misunderstand? What misunderstanding? To be honest, it is rather embarrassing. I only wanted to confirm whether he really is a man. I was the one who was rude first. He misunderstood what I meant and got too agitated for a moment, so he pushed me onto the bed. Claude's scrutinizing gaze swept over Marilyn. Then he fixed his eyes on Kalyan at the side, so you struck him, and even left a handprint on his face? What had originally been words of concern for Kalyan sounded completely different in Marilyn's ears. Blushing, she touched her hand and said she was fine and that he need not worry. But Claude clearly did not see it that way. Since someone had been hurt, a price should be paid. Anyone who dares touch my person will pay a painful price. It was truly a case of those involved being blind to the situation. Ian, who had remained silent all this time, finally could not endure it anymore. This is absurdly melodramatic. Young Duke, do you really believe this woman's words? In Gear, the punishment for false accusation is severe. The tongue is cut out, both hands are chopped off, and one may not leave home for 3 years. It is truly a pity that the Empire has no such law. This blatant threat sent a chill down Marilyn's spine. She turned her head and gave Kalyan a long, deep look. If it really came to explaining herself, Kalyan could completely prove it personally, since the cause of all this lay with her. She was certain that Kalyan would never expose the secret of disguising herself as a man. So she used pain in her wrist as an excuse and said she needed to see a doctor first. Watching Marilyn flee in disarray, Ian felt only speechless. But before he could react, in the next second, he was shut outside the door. At that moment, he even felt like killing someone. And just then, one of his subordinates came in hurriedly to report. They said the second prince's men had made their move. Now only Claude and Kalyan were left in the room. Kalyan clenched his fists, his face full of grievance. I was the one who offended her. I'm sorry, but I absolutely never intended to lay a hand on your woman. He was only halfway through when Claude interrupted him. Do you like Marilyn? Hearing this, Kalyan was shocked and embarrassed all at once. The moment he looked up, he met Claude's wounded gaze. Are you also a man who likes women? Kalyan hurriedly denied it, explaining that it really had just been an accident. Without realizing it, he had been pressed into the corner by Claude. I really didn't do anything shameful with Miss Selby, so please forgive me. Even at this moment, he did not say a single word in his own defense. The corner of Claude's eye twitched slightly. He reached out and lifted Kalyan's face, which had been slapped red. She was the one who hit you. You don't need to apologize. And what I'm about to do next is what should be apologized for. Whether you are a beast or a man no longer matters now. In the next second, a deep kiss fell on Kalyan's lips, and the sudden turn of events made Kalyan's eyes fly open. But very soon, she slowly closed her eyes and sank into the kiss. The hand pressed against Claude's chest unconsciously tightened and also began to tremble slightly. No one knew how much time had passed. Only then did Claude reluctantly pull away. But the scene of delighted surprise he had expected did not appear. Claude, do you like men? Kalyan's question pierced straight into the deepest part of his soul. Facing Kalyan, whose face was streaked with tears, Claude had just opened his mouth to explain. But a burst of urgent knocking suddenly sounded. Your Highness, young Duke, are you inside? What is it? The Duke is in critical condition. At the same time, Grand Duke Hall was coughing up blood in great mouthfuls. After examination by the doctor, it was determined that he had drunk poison tea. Claude rushed over in extreme anxiety. The moment he entered, his father called him to his side. He clutched his father's hand tightly, his voice trembling. How could he have been poisoned? What exactly happened? But fortunately, you are here, Claude. From this moment on, young Duke Claude d'Ahal will become Duke Claude d'Ahal. You are the new master of Dekasa. The Grand Duke of Ahal, the pillar of the empire, had been gravely poisoned and was hanging by a thread. Before dying, he passed his title to his only son, Claude. The Gia people from the enemy nation also became the first suspects. And at this moment, Prince Ian of Gyr, who was still in the empire, was in an even more perilous position. He never would have thought that his elder brother could be this foolish. Whether the poisoning had been ordered by his brother or not, it absolutely could not be unrelated to him. At this moment, he had to return to his country immediately. But the only person he could not bear to leave behind was Kalyan. From this moment on, many troublesome matters would happen one after another. So he planned to take Kalyan back with him. But at the crucial moment, Jilin sternly stopped him. He pulled Lien behind him protectively. Before the war broke out, Ian had to hide as quickly as possible. Because his status was far too sensitive, Ian, however unwilling, could only choose to leave. He gently took Lien's hand. Kneeling on one knee, he pressed a kiss to the back of her hand. I will come back for you. Wait for me. Kalia's gaze toward Lien was calm and resolute, and after doing all this, he hurried away. Everything will get better, right? Not long afterward, Claude found the true culprit behind the poisoning, Marquis Selby. The Emperor's face was filled with disbelief because Marquis Selby had no reason to do such a thing. Although the Selby family could not compare to the Hall and Bell families, they had always been loyal to the Empire and to the Emperor. And why would he collude with Gyr to murder the Duke? Weren't you even discussing marriage with Miss Selby of that family? Hearing this, Claude's eyes darkened a little. The Selby family was responsible for all the tea offered to the royal house, and Marquis Selby himself was extremely sensitive about supply matters, so his management was especially strict. The tea his father drank had also been delivered by him. Perhaps the one they truly wanted to harm was not the Ahal family, but the royal family. And we have also overlooked Prince Ian Sigio, although he did not want to admit it. Just now, he really had seen Jilin telling Ian to leave quickly. Could it be that Jilin also wanted to stand against him? They had also captured one of Ian's guards, but that person had already bitten off his own tongue and committed suicide. Your Majesty, I intend to use this opportunity to reclaim ownership of the entire neutral territory. Therefore, please permit me to declare war on Gyr. How's the Duke? Where is Ian? Was it really done by the Gia people? It still cannot be confirmed, but Ian is definitely not the murderer, and I'm afraid the Duke may find it very hard to survive today. Hearing this, Kalyan's heart suddenly sank. He was very worried about Claude's condition now. Could it be that his younger sibling and the young duke harbored the same feelings? As it turned out, something had happened 2 years ago that Jilin remembered to this day. That day, snowflakes drifted through the sky. It should have been nothing unusual, yet Claude was looking at them with extraordinary interest. I remembered something. What taste did he taste in the snow? That's right, the person he was talking about was Kellyan. Leah, could it be that you and Claude? Before the question could be finished, it was interrupted by a sudden shout. Kellyan, you truly disappoint me. I already ordered you not to attend under any circumstances, yet you dared ignore my command. Seeing his mother arrive aggressively, Jilin immediately shielded his younger brother behind him. The duke is critically ill right now, so don't worry about Lien's matter first. But Anata had no intention of letting it go. They say blood will not lie. Even Jilin has been led astray by you. You really are something, Kellyan. Even if he is your biological younger brother, you should still know your limits. Jilin, who is usually gentle-tempered, finally reached the end of his patience. Mother, please stop. For the first time, her son had defied her, and Anata trembled with rage. Leah, go back to that place and wait for me. You are acting so impulsively now, speaking up for that kind of person. Have you even stopped putting your own mother in your eyes? Hearing this, Jilin began to radiate a chilling aura, as though icy currents surged in his eyes, ready in the next second to freeze someone solid. That day, I was left by the cold lakeside. Was it really Mother Leah's fault? Her supposedly flawless secret was exposed on the spot, and Anata froze in place as if struck by lightning, unable to move for a long time. Suppressing her guilt by force, she tried hard to maintain her composure. Jilin, what do you mean by that? Mother should know better than anyone what I mean. The young duke had finally worked up the courage to prepare to confess his feelings. Yet at that exact moment, he received news that his father was critically ill. His father's haggard face dealt him a heavy blow. That night, dragging his utterly exhausted body, he went to find Kellyan. It was as if only here could he receive even a little comfort. The next day, the deeply respected Grand Duke Hall passed away. And overnight, the master of Dekasa became Claude. An air of sorrow blanketed the entire empire. Everyone was discussing how a bloody storm might be about to begin. And this time, Claude left the capital. That also meant that for a long while, the two of them would be unable to see each other again. The familiar figure downstairs drew Lien's gaze. That person was the tailor who had once taken her measurements. He was also the only person in the palace who knew her true identity. At a time like this, what was he doing here? After a few simple pleasantries, Flander quickly explained why he had come. The life of a noble is not that easy either, is it? Hearing those words, Kellyan felt a faint unease arise in his heart. Sure enough, in the next second, the man took an envelope from his coat. That familiar feeling immediately reminded him of the letter sent by the kidnappers. The last letter received no response, so I came again this time. Unexpectedly, Flander was actually in league with the kidnappers. There is a map inside. The person you are looking for is there. However, that place is very dangerous. If you are not ready yet, it would be best not to go there. Open it only after you have prepared yourself mentally. He had heard that Marquis Bell was also looking for her, and that was something Kellyan had never expected no matter what. Before he could recover from his shock, Flanders spoke again leisurely. Last time, I kept your secret. This time, it is your turn to keep mine. I trust you. After that, Kellyan went to find his father. I heard you are going to war. Yes, I intend to go to war together with the Duke. After losing my old friend Dukahal, I am so angry I cannot even sleep. After hesitating for a long time, Kellyan finally gathered his courage. Father, I want to bring an end to the life of the identity known as Kellyan Bell. Hearing this, Marquis Bell was deeply shocked. Could it be that you found Laura? His father's question directly confirmed Flanders' words. Sure enough, his father had also been searching for his mother all along. But he still could not understand why his mother had left his brother by the cold lakeside. Yet his father did not answer his question directly. Laura was very good at hide and seek ever since she was little. Kellyan's headache instantly worsened. Wasn't mother a maid in the estate? Had father known mother since childhood? How had he never heard about this before? But his father had no intention of clearing up his confusion. Instead, after just a few perfunctory words, he sent him back. However, before one wave had settled, another arose. On the way back, the butler told her about Prince Ian's marriage proposal. Only then did she understand those words Ian had said before leaving. So that was what he meant. My master is very worried that you may say you want to go to Gear. The royal family of Gear is extremely paranoid and exceptionally cruel. And Ian Sergio is, to begin with, a member of the Gear royal family. He is also young Master Jilin's benefactor. As a butler, I should not be making improper comments about my master's social dealings. But they are bloodthirsty by nature and absolutely cannot be trusted easily. So, please do not choose to go to Gear just to exchange it for a brief period of peace. Kellyan was in complete turmoil, not knowing how much of what Ian had said was sincere. If war really broke out, perhaps they would never see each other again. One troublesome matter came after another, and utterly exhausted, he had just pushed open the door to his room when he saw that Claude was actually standing inside. You always come back this late. Hello, Kellyanne. Long time no see. Seeing this, Kellyanne's face filled with surprise. Why are you here? Weren't you supposed to go to the Northern Territory? It turned out that he had come specifically to say goodbye to Kellyanne. Before I leave, there are some things I must say to you in person. Hearing this, Kellyanne nervously swallowed, because he guessed that Claude must be going to bring up what happened that day. Thinking of this, his heartbeat grew even more rapid. But in the very next second, his suspended heart sank straight down. Kellyanne, I came to apologize to you. That day in the attic, because of curiosity and because of a moment of impulse, I did something to you that I should not have done. When Kellyanne heard this, his whole being was engulfed in unease. She lowered her head, her fists clenched tightly. I don't understand what you mean. I'm sorry. I was too rough and too rude that day. So, forget about that incident. So, from beginning to end, it had all been her own wishful thinking. Kellyanne's throat suddenly tightened. Large tears welled up in her eyes. Just then, a warm, large hand covered her forehead. Are you feeling unwell? You have a fever. Kellyanne's heart was filled with mixed emotions. She raised her hand and brushed away the hand on her forehead. No, she brushed away the hand on her forehead. No, I'm just a little hot. I want to rest. Please leave, Your Grace. Since everything had only been a misunderstanding, then she should learn to let go as well. Driven outside the door, Claude stared at her back for a long time in thought. He realized that he seemed to understand Kellyanne less and less. After returning to the carriage, the more he thought about it, the more something felt wrong. That day, after Kellyanne had been kissed by him, she cried. He had originally wanted to tell her that what he liked was not men, but her as a person. But if the other party was merely a man who liked women, and if she was also afraid of him, then apologizing for his own uncontrollable impulse was the most correct thing to do. But no matter how much he thought, he could not figure it out. Why, after he apologized, did Kellyanne instead look as if she were about to cry? At this time, there were still 2 hours left before departure. There was still plenty of time. In order to clear up the doubts in his heart, he turned back once again to look for Kellyanne. Look, but by this time Kellyanne had already taken medicine and was sleeping deeply, so he only intended to take one look from afar and then leave. No one had expected that this one glance would directly change Kellyanne's fate. In the following years, the two of them would be unable to see each other again. He was even wondering whether Kellyanne would miss him. At that moment, Kellyanne drowsily hummed twice, turned over, and softly murmured, "It's so hot." This made Claude unable to help sighing that she really was someone who made people worry. But in the next second, the smile at the corner of his lips froze instantly, and an unnatural flush quickly climbed up his face, because he saw that patch of snow-white skin beneath her collar. For a long while, he stood stiffly by the bed like a block of wood, unable to move at all. When he finally reacted, he was so shocked that his mouth could have fit an egg. He had never imagined that Kellyanne was actually a woman. "Jilin, you hid this from me well indeed." Before leaving, he placed the clematis brooch symbolizing the Duchess on the bedside table. It was a token that belonged only to him. When the war was over, he would go back and help her reclaim her true name, reclaim the life that originally belonged to her, and also completely have her. At the same time, Kellyanne also discovered that brooch. She thought it was merely something Claude had accidentally left behind. But she had already made up her mind that once her health improved, she would go look for her mother. After meeting her mother, perhaps she would leave immediately. So she probably would not be able to return this brooch to Claude in person either, because she had already decided that she would become Kalia again. By a twist of fate, the Duke finally learned Kellyanne's true identity. Both shocked and delighted, he immediately went to the chief culprit, Jilin. Testing the waters, he urged him to make sure to protect Kalia. Unexpectedly, he directly guessed Kellyanne's real name. He ignored Jilin's expression, frozen in shock. "If anything happens to Kalia, I will never forgive you. Remember, I will absolutely never forgive you. You must protect her well and not let her suffer even the slightest harm. This is the price you pay for deceiving me." Jilin Bell. Early the next morning, Marilyn, who had always been proud and arrogant, actually knelt before the princess. After an investigation, it was found that Grand Duke Hall's death had been caused by her father. Knowing nothing, she could only beg the princess to give her a chance to prove Marquis Selby's innocence. Seeing the scene, Rosina immediately showed a troubled expression, because in this matter, she was powerless as well. But if Marquis Selby truly was innocent, then surely nothing would happen. Marilyn was obviously dissatisfied with the princess's response, so she made up a lie. "Your Highness, do you know? Kellyanne, the younger brother of your fiancé, the young Marquis, took liberties with me on the day of your engagement." Duke Hall saw it with his own eyes. "If this matter reaches the Emperor's ears, I worry that he will become disappointed in the Bell family because of it." Hearing this, Rosina panicked instantly. In order not to affect her engagement to Jilin, she agreed to help the other party seek a chance to clarify things before the Emperor. But before that, you had better keep your mouth shut. Afterward, Rosina went to discuss countermeasures with Jilin. "My younger brother Kellyanne took liberties with Miss Marilyn? A man like him would develop improper thoughts toward that lady?" That is what Marilyn said. If the matter is true, it will deal a heavy blow to Marquis Belle's reputation, and our marriage will also be affected. Unlike the worried Rosina, Jilin instead let out a long sigh of relief. As for others, I can't say, but Kalyan would absolutely never do such a thing. As for Marilyn's claim that the Duke also witnessed the scene with his own eyes, that is even more impossible. Because if Kalyan had really wanted to take liberties with Miss Marilyn, the Duke would absolutely not have stood by and done nothing. This time, when I go to the neutral region to see my father off, I will ask the Duke to write a letter, and that should be enough to prove my brother's innocence. Hearing this, Rosina finally smiled again. If Claude was willing to testify, then she would be able to make a judgment. So the next day, the group boarded the train bound for the neutral region. In order to make a certain person happy, Jilin even brought his younger brother Kalyan along. Leaving Eye.丨for the first time, Kalyan appeared very happy. But Jilin's sudden teasing gave him quite a fright. Are you really that happy? Could it be that you're this excited because of Claude? Seeing Kalyan fluster in a panic, Jilin was in an excellent mood. But when he thought of those two people who were thinking about his younger sibling, he could not help feeling worried again. Because of those two people, he approved of neither of them. Neither was good enough for his younger sister. On the other side, Kalyan was actually not as calm as he appeared on the surface. Ever since they had parted like that, this would be their first meeting. He did not even know what the first thing he should say after meeting him would be. After returning from this trip, he would go look for his mother, so this might really be their last meeting. At the very least, he should properly make one final farewell. But at this moment, he still did not know that all of his worries were unnecessary. Marquis Selby pretended to stop the poisoning of the royal family in order to claim credit. Then he shifted the blame onto Prince Ian, taking this opportunity to annex the resource-rich neutral region. But that cup of tea laced with poison, through an unfortunate twist of fate, was drunk by Grand Duke Hall. In the end, it directly led to his death. The second prince who set up the scheme, Alan Sergio, tried to steal a chicken only to lose the rice used to lure it. Not only were his subordinates captured and his identity exposed, he also thoroughly offended Claude, the master of Dakasa, because of it. As for this matter, Ian naturally could not possibly let it go either. If he chose to support the eldest prince, then this war would determine who would become the next king of Gear. Ian and they had a common enemy. And Jilin had long thought of this, so he had written the letter long ago, requesting that a proposal for an alliance be made to Prince Ian. Hearing this, the crown prince fell into deep thought. Just then, the carriage also arrived at the front line. The war had injured many people. Kalyan could not help beginning to worry about Claude. From his brother's mouth, he learned that Claude had only suffered a graze from a bullet and was now receiving treatment. Kalyan instantly became nervous to the extreme, but he could not help worrying whether Claude might hate him. Kalyan, do you know the meaning of the Hall ducal family crest? The eagle symbolizes Duke Hall, and the clematis symbolizes the Duchess. That clematis brooch represents the status of the Duchess. Kalyan held his forehead, but that brooch was left in my room by His Grace the Duke. If I had known it was that important, I would have brought it with me. This was obviously different from what Claude had said. He had clearly said it was deliberately left for Kalyan. So this silly little sister knew nothing after all. What if he is angry with me? How could that be? Go in and have a look. Kalyan moved his steps timidly. The voice he had longed for day and night suddenly rang by his ear. It is the crown prince who has arrived, isn't it? Quite a grand entrance indeed. Go tell the crown prince that the Duke is resting. Kalyan's voice instantly seemed to inject strength into him. Duke Claude, your clematis brooch was left in my room. I didn't know it was so important, so I didn't bring it over. If I had known earlier, I definitely would have brought it. I'm truly very sorry. Because Claude suddenly stepped forward, that powerful hand instantly wrapped around his waist. Claude's handsome face was right before his eyes. Because his longing was too deep, he did not even have time to wait for an answer. He only wanted to claim all of this yearning first. Quite some time passed. Blushing, Kalyan suddenly pushed him away. You're injured. You can't move around like this. But Claude did not care at all and merely reached out his hand toward him, signaling for him to come over. Seeing that Kalyan was still hesitating, Claude immediately guessed his concern. You mean to say I am a man? And last time it was also you who said that this kind of behavior was rude and base. You even told me to forget it and apologized to me. Could it be that you've started liking men? As the words fell, Claude had already walked in front of him. No, I like you. This sudden, straightforward confession made Kalyan's heart tremble, and his heartbeat also sped up wildly beyond control. The remnants of reason forced him to turn his face away. So, you like men? Claude answered him with a firm sentence. I already told you. The one I like is you. Come here, Kalyan. I don't want to. In the next second, his hand was gently taken up. Please, don't leave me. His beloved appeared vividly right before his eyes, just like that. And the Duke could hardly believe his own eyes. That was why he lost his reason for a brief moment. Seeing that Kalyan had been frightened by his actions, he solemnly promised that he would never again do anything that would make the other party dislike him. That aggrieved look made Kalyan's heartbeat go completely out of rhythm. I understand. Please lie down quickly. After all, it's a gunshot wound, so you must be careful. You haven't even gone to the hospital yet. In the next second, his wrist was seized. Claude tugged him back with one hand, making him sit directly on his lap. It's wartime now, so going after treatment later is also fine. At this moment, all he wanted was to stay with Kellyanne. Aren't you afraid of war? Afraid? Of course I'm afraid. Can't there be a ceasefire? Is revenge really the only way? I'm not doing this only for revenge. It turned out that over all these years, ①-Tfoced had continually lost many people because of the war in the neutral region. Claude wanted to use this battle to build a ①-Tfoced that no one could violate, one that was safe. Kellyanne stared at the wound on his abdomen and fell into a daze for a moment. Even if that means giving your life for it? Hearing this, Claude suddenly smiled. No, my life is very precious. I cannot hand it over lightly. There is only one person for whom I can give my life. You must have had a hard trip getting here, right? It was fine, it's just that I couldn't properly bathe on the way, which was really a bit uncomfortable. Only when he said this did he suddenly realize that he was filthy all over, and maybe he even smelled by now. In the next second, his whole body sprang up abruptly like a spring. I have something to do, so I'll leave first. But he had not even escaped for a second before Claude firmly grabbed him. Where are you going? Outside. You should rest, so please hurry and lie down. Before they had finished talking, the summons announcing the Crown Prince's arrival shook people's eardrums numb. The dissatisfaction in Claude's eyes was practically overflowing. When the Crown Prince's group walked into the tent, what they saw was Claude's resentful expression all over his face. The atmosphere was so awkward that Kellyanne did not want to stay even 1 second longer. After respectfully saluting, he was just about to leave when Claude called out to him, Avon, take Kellyanne there. You will like it there. The neutral zone is a very interesting place. Some places are covered in snow all year round, while in others, hot springs like this bubble up. His Grace the Duke has already given the order that no one is allowed to enter the hot spring. Right now, not even an ant can get in. Please enjoy your bath without worry. Claude's thoughtfulness made his heart itch uncontrollably. He had clearly left so coldly that day, yet today he was so gentle again. How could anyone keep hating him like this? Could it be that His Grace the Duke really likes men? Or is it that he only likes me? If he really likes men, then he would probably abandon me, a woman. But he said it himself, he only likes me. If that were really true, how wonderful it would be. Under the enchanting moonlight, ⑨Lian finally saw her own heart clearly. It turned out that she had always liked Claude. As long as he liked her too, everything else seemed unimportant. Only after Kellyanne slowly returned to the camp was the ban on the hot spring finally lifted. At last, the soldiers were able to go bathe. That day, Kellyanne thought about many things. Actually, even if he did not like her, it would be all right. No matter what she became now, she still liked His Grace the Duke. But with her status as an illegitimate child and the secret of disguising herself as a man, did she really have the right to like His Grace the Duke? Madame said she would hold a funeral for her so that she could return to living as a daughter. Thinking of it that way, the days she could continue living as Kellyanne were already few. What was more, once she met her mother, she would have to leave. Perhaps this would be the last time she and Claude ever met. If that really were the case, if this really were their last meeting, then could she confess her feelings to him? Could she also be selfish for once and do something she truly wanted to do? Claude searched everywhere for Kellyanne. At last, he found traces of that person in the carriage, and by then, she had already fallen fast asleep. Could it be that she did not feel safe enough staying in the military camp? One discovery made Claude's eyes widen abruptly. Kellyanne had actually not locked the carriage door. This person usually looked quite clever, but sometimes was unexpectedly careless. Smiling, he gently stroked ⑨Lian's head. Kalia, may I kiss you? If you do not wake up soon, I really am going to kiss you. Still sunk in her dream, ⑨Lian murmured softly, no, ⑨Ian. That name stabbed into Claude's sensitive nerves like countless thorns. So that was how it was. Ian Sergio probably also knew that you were a woman. I was the only one kept in the dark. After learning that his rival had known ⑨Lian's true identity first, the Duke's jealousy nearly overturned everything in an instant. The very next day, he brought ⑨Lian to the highest place visible from his rival's encampment, and domineeringly declared his sovereignty. Just last night, the slow-witted Claude had finally figured something out. About Ian Sergio already knowing ⑨Lian's true identity, looking back now, it seemed he had known from the very beginning. But how exactly had he found out? Did Jilin tell only him? Or did ⑨Lian reveal a flaw herself? But more important than any of that was the fact that, even knowing ⑨Lian was a woman, he had still lived together with her. Thinking of this, Claude ground his teeth audibly. It was not until dawn the next day that Kellyanne finally woke up slowly. The first thing that entered her sight was Claude's handsome face. She stared at him just like that for a very long time. Then, a bold thought surfaced in her mind. And in fact, she really did it. She sat down beside Claude and reached out to play with the loose strands of his hair. But unexpectedly, that action woke him up. What exactly are you trying to do? Seeing this, Kellyanne did not back down. but instead touched his ear even more boldly. Nothing. I just wanted to do this, that's all. The pure-hearted Claude blushed all at once. You really dare to provoke the Duke while he is asleep. Your courage is not small. Then Claude got down from the carriage. He was going to take Kellyanne somewhere. Before the other person left, there were some things he had to confirm. Can we really go this far away? Who would dare object? True enough. Can you see over there? That is Ian Sergio's position, and from there, they can also see us here. Hearing that, Leanne tilted her head and asked, "Is Prince Ian really there?" The next second, her whole body fell into a solid embrace. Claude rested his chin on her shoulder, his voice low and husky. "What? Do you miss him?" The sudden questioning made Kellyanne a little embarrassed, and even her speech became awkward. "Why are you suddenly asking this? When you lived together with Ian, did you ever sleep in the same room?" Kellyanne looked helpless. "No, we each had our own room." "Then did you ever play with Ian's hair?" "I never touched him like that." "Then have you kissed?" The relentless questions left Kellyanne utterly bewildered. She pushed Claude back and asked why he kept asking these things. Looking at Claude's obviously unnatural expression, Kellyanne finally realized it. Your Grace the Duke. Could it be that you are jealous right now?" Of course, she did not actually say those words aloud, but Claude seemed particularly persistent. "So, have you kissed or not?" Only after hearing Kellyanne say with absolute certainty that she definitely had not, did Claude finally reveal a fully satisfied smile. "That's good." The next second, Kellyanne's eyes widened suddenly, because Claude kissed her without any warning. The moment he thought of how Ian's encampment was not far from here, Claude instantly could not suppress the corners of his mouth. After the kiss ended, he held Kellyanne tightly. "When I am not around, you must be careful. Do not get hurt, and do not sleep anywhere without locking it." Hearing that, Kellyanne could not hide the smile on her face at all, and immediately agreed to his instructions. "I left something for you before." She knew he was referring to the clematis brooch. Kellyanne guiltily turned her face away. "How can you say it was left for me? Stop joking around. Do you know what it represents?" "I heard that it is the Duchess's brooch." "That's right. Before I return, keep it for me. I will come back personally to take it, so do not disappear." Those were the words Kellyanne most wanted to hear, but when she truly heard them, she could not answer at all. Because she was not a man, nor was she a noble, because the self she showed in front of Claude was entirely false. If Claude knew the real me, he would definitely change his mind. Reason told her that now was the time to say goodbye properly. "All right, I will definitely wait for you." She knew she should not say that, but her mouth would not obey her. She truly wanted to accept this affection, even if only for a brief moment. She wanted to see Claude smile one more time. After briefly saying goodbye to his father, Claude led over a horse. He first handed over a letter, asking Jilin to make sure it was delivered to the princess. "I will definitely make her pay the price. Do not say anything else to Kellyanne. I will go back and tell him myself. He still firmly believes that I know nothing." Only after explaining all this did he call Kellyanne over. "This is my father's horse. Its name is ①-②. Now I am entrusting it to you." Looking at the two people's bewildered faces, Claude added, "What I mean is, I'm letting you take care of it. If anything happens, you can ride it to Dakasa. No matter where you are, it can bring you back here." After saying this, he left without looking back. In the midst of war, could one really still make a promise to meet again? If Claude were to meet with misfortune in the war, would she regret it for the rest of her life? Thinking of this, Kellyanne broke into a run. Anyway, this was the last time, although her feelings would never be accepted from the very beginning. At this moment, she still wanted to say them out loud. "Wait, bring your ear closer. I like you too. I will not say it a second time. So, you absolutely must come back alive. Even if getting hurt is unavoidable, you still must come back." Kellyanne's sudden confession was so overwhelming that Claude could not believe his ears for a moment. The instant he came back to his senses, his heartbeat was almost out of control. "All right, I promise you." As he spoke, he reached out and gently pulled off Leanne's necktie. "But you must promise me too, after the war ends, at my triumph ceremony, you must stand in the very front. I will take this with me as a token. That way, we will have something to exchange in the future." Afterward, Leanne bowed respectfully and turned to leave. Claude stared blankly at that retreating figure, absent-minded for a long, long time. "She said she likes me. Haha, no matter what happens, I will definitely go back." That woman had intended to clear her father's name by falsely accusing the younger brother of the princess's fiancé of molesting her. Because the only two people who knew what had happened were the two who had been there, she was certain that Kellyanne would never expose her own identity in order to accuse her of false charges. Who could have known that human schemes are never a match for fate? From Claude, Jilin obtained evidence sufficient to prove that she had framed him. The letter said that he had overheard Kellyanne and Marilyn talking in the corridor. Combined with Kellyanne's torn collar and the contents of their conversation, it was entirely possible to conclude that Kellyanne was innocent. Besides that, Claude had also sent over a grand gift. He had also sent back evidence that Marquis Selby had taken part in the rebellion. Hearing this, Marilyn felt as though the sky had collapsed. She sprang to her feet and loudly refuted it, saying that her father could never have participated in a rebellion. But the princess remembered every word of her crying about her grievances and attacking her fiancé's family. She had already warned her at the time that falsely accusing the imperial family was a grave crime. At this point, Rosina no longer wanted to hear any of her excuses. Men, drag Marilyn Selby, who has insulted the imperial family, away. The next moment, Marilyn's furious and unwilling screams echoed through the entire hall. Your Highness the Princess, you cannot do this. You were the one who seduced Claude, weren't you? You shameless slut, you are obviously still a man. If it were not for you, Claude would never have treated me and my father like this. It is all your fault, all your fault. My father did nothing wrong. Why would Claude take your side? Do you think this means you can become the owner of the brooch? Please give me one more chance. Let go of me. As the great doors of the hall slammed shut, the always proud Marilyn was left with only a single red high heel. However, before one wave had even settled, another rose. The Duke said he had found the owner of the brooch. Do you know why he suddenly said that, Jilin? As soon as those words fell, both brothers were startled. The princess's direct gaze made Jilin's heart go cold, but fortunately Lien promptly helped him out. Your Highness the Princess, the brooch is with me. I think he must have accidentally left it behind. He said he would come back to retrieve it, but that clearly did not match what was written in the letter. The letter said that he had already found the owner of the brooch. According to Claude's meaning, that owner was Kellyan. That's right, he would never publicly make this kind of joke. And Kellyan had even returned riding Ely. If the Duke had really chosen Kellyan as the owner of the brooch, then their marriage arrangements would probably run into trouble again. In order not to put her brother in a difficult position, Kellyan made a shocking decision. Miss Selby is your Highness's friend. First of all, thank you for choosing to believe me in this matter. I will not let your Highness the Princess and my brother continue to worry over this matter because of me. At the critical moment, Jilin suddenly stood up, wanting to stop Lien from telling the truth. But Rosina said she wanted to hear the rest. Brother, you do not need to worry. I have never had any improper thoughts toward Miss Selby. And also, I am not a man, I am a woman. I know this will shock you. But I feel that I cannot keep letting my brother lie to your Highness because of me, and I also do not want your Highness to misunderstand His Grace the Duke. Of course, His Grace the Duke still does not know that I am a woman. I only want to tell your Highness that the kind of thing you are worried about will not happen. So, please do not worry too much. The moment those words fell, Rosina suddenly stood up. Not only did she not blame Kellyan, she instead gently pulled her into an embrace. Patting Lien's shoulder again and again, she helped her slowly relax. Every noble family has more or less some special circumstances, and she could completely understand that. You have suffered during this time. It was the first time anyone had truly understood her grievances, and Kellyan's eyes reddened instantly. This confession made her feel much lighter inside. Sensibly, she prepared to withdraw and leave space for the couple. Before leaving, she did not forget to offer them her blessing. The two of you are truly well matched. You look genuinely in love. If the two of you get married, you will definitely be happier than anyone else. Hearing that, both of them smiled so widely they could hardly close their mouths. After Lien left, Jilin told the princess everything about Lien exactly as it was. That way, the princess would also be able to help in the future. As for the fact that Lien still did not know that she had actually already been exposed in front of Claude, Rosina said that matter could be left to her. She would properly guide Kellyan so that when the Duke returned, she would become a duchess of a hall who met royal standards. And she also felt that Kellyan was already exceptionally beautiful and would surely look stunning in a dress. The girl left without saying goodbye and ran away from home, all just to go find her biological mother. But while she was still imagining the scene of reuniting with her mother, the deeply ill-timed sound of a carriage rose behind her. The madam who had raised her had caught up to her. And just like that, her escape plan came to an abrupt end. Kellyan had actually ignored her warning. Anata was so furious that her face twisted hideously and the veins at her temples bulged. The next second, a burning slap landed across Lien's face. How dare you ignore the grace of being raised and think of betraying me? If I had known you were this selfish, I should have let you starve to death in that filthy gutter back then. But she seemed to have forgotten that Kellyan had never asked her to do that. Her entering the Marquis's household in the first place had been entirely Anata's one-sided arrangement. But of course, she would never admit that the one at fault was herself. If you did not harbor such thoughts, would you and the Duke have become close enough to call each other by name? If you were planning to sneak away like this, then you should have followed my warning before and lived quietly. The Duke and even the princess are now both asking about you. If you suddenly disappear at a time like this, what will people outside think? You should first think about how much trouble this will bring to the family. Mother is right. Someone like me, who would keep remembering me forever? Right now, because of the war, the situation in the country is in complete chaos. His Grace the Duke and Her Highness the Princess will probably forget me very soon. Shouldn't you be happy that you have finally gotten rid of a thorn in your side? But the Marquis had personally instructed Anata to take good care of Kellyan until he returned. Claude had also instructed Jilin to protect him well. If I cannot keep those promises, how embarrassed Jilin and I will be. And yet Kalyan had never known about any of those instructions. I told you before as well, you have already stepped into noble society. If you disappear like this, it will damage the family's interests. I heard you are very smart. Could it be that you cannot even think of such a basic principle? But now I no longer want to care about so much. Brother has already recovered his health, and now the Bell family will not be easily shaken by something like this either. Seeing how stubbornly obsessed Kalyan was, ⑨-ŋa let out a heavy sigh. Her expression also darkened accordingly. You really are impossible to reason with. That slip of paper has Laura's address written on it, doesn't it? Hearing this, Kalyan immediately hid the note behind her back. Seeing that, ⑨-ŋa instead revealed a cold smile. You do not need to hide it, because from the very beginning, I had no intention of snatching it. I already know where Laura is. In that instant, Lian's heart sank sharply. A sinister premonition swept through her entire body at once. Sure enough, the next second she heard the threat. Don't you want to go so badly? Then go ahead. Just remember to hide well. No matter where you hide, I will find you. Then I will kill your mother and make sure you can never go back. It was unbelievable that mother could say such vicious words. Terrified, Kalyan immediately shoved her away. At this, ⑨-ŋa only became even more smug. So you had better obediently do as I say. That way I can still keep your mother safe and sound. And think carefully, does Laura really want to see you? That mother of yours seems to have forgotten you long ago and is living quite well on her own. Once you appear, who knows how much of a headache it will cause her. So stop making trouble and do as I say. When your father comes back, we will hold the funeral. Then you can go live in a place where no one knows you and live quietly for the rest of your life. As long as you are willing to obediently listen, I will not harm a single hair on Laura's head. She firmly believed that her threat would definitely work. In her eyes, Kalyan's delusion of resisting her was simply overestimating herself. If not for Kalyan and his mother, Jilin would not resent her, and the Marquis would not have betrayed her. But Kalyan said that she wanted to return to her mother's side and live happily. How could that be allowed? She wanted him to experience it personally as well. To experience once what it felt like to be betrayed by the one you loved. What exactly did that bone-deep loneliness and the pain of betrayal feel like?